After the divorce, the 40-year-old aunt became a heartthrob. After the planet was irradiated and polluted, Wang Zijin began to feel increasingly strange. Not only could she hear animals and plants talking, but she also realized she had become particularly infatuated with love and unhealthy, abnormal obsession with love. Like now her husband, Xiao Zhenxiong, was lying in their bedroom with his large beer belly exposed, wrapped around a woman in a bikini. She had just knocked on the door to ask them what they wanted for breakfast. After asking, Wang Zijin furrowed her brows, feeling a deep disgust for herself. It seemed like she shouldn't be like this. Her husband, Xiao Zhenxiong, was once a tall and handsome, poor young man. He had become a big CEO, relying on her wealth, and now he had grown fat like a pig. Xiao Zhenxiong impatiently hugged the woman who was clinging to him and glared at Wang Zijin. Always asking. Every day you ask. You just want to see me, don't you? Can't live without seeing me, huh? If your dad hadn't disagreed, I would divorced you, the old, ugly, useless woman, long ago. Wang Zijin. There was a phrase she had been saying for many years: husband, don't be angry, I was wrong, I love you, I can't live without you, I'll give you everything, my life too. But now, she forcefully pushed those words down and said slowly, then, let us divorce. What? Xiao Zhenxiong was stunned. After all, in their 20 years of marriage, Wang Zijin had never mentioned divorce. It was always Xiao Zhenxiong threatening to divorce, and Wang Zijin would cry and beg him not to. Xiao Zhenxiong didn't believe these words were coming from her. Wang Zijin didn't believe it either. After saying divorce, cold sweat drenched her temples, and her hairline was already thinning. She wore a comfortable but oversized cotton house dress. She had finally said it. Heaven knew how hard it was for her to say those 4 words, as though they were shackled by a thorny cage. But once she said it, she felt a sudden sense of relief, and even smiled sincerely. You can keep the company, the house, the car, but the children, they stay with you. What? Xiao Zhenxiong was shocked and angry. He pushed away the woman clinging to him and jumped up, pointing at Wang Zijin's nose, shouting, Wang Zijin, what are you crazy about? You want to lose me? After I leave, you'll beg your dad to bring me back, playing the same old tricks again, huh? I'll tell you. If you keep this up, I'll really divorce you. Even if your dad begs me, it's useless. It's just a stupid company. You think I care about that? I've already signed the divorce agreement. It's only missing your signature. Wang Zijin calmly interrupted him and handed him the agreement she had signed just moments ago. She had drafted the agreement many days ago but could never bring herself to sign it. Now, she had finally done it without hesitation. She was amazed by how easy it had felt, almost as though some strange talent had awakened inside her. Could she join the National Special Ability Task Force being recruited? The planet was changing, animals, plants, and even humans were mutating, but humans were evolving much slower than the plants and animals. Outside the window, the pot of little orchids had just mentioned that a domesticated dog had mutated into a beast bigger than a house and had eaten many people. This city, Minute City, was no longer safe. She needed to leave. Wang Zijin's thoughts drifted, but Xiao Zhenxiong, after reading the divorce agreement, was so enraged that his fat seemed ready to explode. Wang Zijin. He angrily slammed his pen and tore the agreement into pieces. Grabbing her chin, he shouted, You've gone too far this time. If you pull this again, I'll never forgive you. This time, I'll let you go. But go make breakfast, I'm hungry. In the past, whenever he said he was hungry or thirsty, Wang Zijin would treat it like an honor, serving him with all her heart. Now, Wang Zijin simply frowned, displeased. What does it matter to me if you're hungry? If you don't sign, we'll go through legal means. I have plenty of evidence of your affairs and domestic violence during our marriage. Xiao Zhenxiong was so enraged that he nearly passed out. He squeezed Wang Zijin's neck harder. Ugly woman. Do you want to die? You really think I won't kill you? Xiao Zhenxiong had abused her countless times before, but he always held back because her father was the chairman of the company, and he was reluctant to lose his wealth and status. Now, Xiao Zhenxiong was furious, and it seemed that Wang Zijin was serious about the divorce. She really wanted it. His riches might be gone. No, this couldn't happen. Xiao Zhenxiong was in a panic, his mind in turmoil. Desperate and anxious, he was unsure how to react, still yelling, Wife, stop it, admit your mistake, say you're sorry, and I'll forgive you. Admit it. Wang Zijin's face was turning blue from suffocation, but in her heart, she felt relaxed. She wasn't heartbroken, not even a little sad. Looking at Xiao Zhenxiong, she saw him as nothing more than an angry, bloated pig. This was great. This was how she should feel. This was normal. Wang Zijin smiled, closed her eyes, and silently called for her big orange cat. When she first adopted the fat orange cat, it had been so skinny. Now, it was as fat as her husband. She had spent a lifetime raising cats, using them for comfort. Over time, through their many communications, she had become quite skilled at summoning her lazy big orange cat. She commanded the fat orange cat, which immediately kicked its forepaws towards Xiao Zhenxiong's eyes. He had no choice but to release his grip on Wang Zijin's neck. Now free, Wang Zijin quickly grabbed the cat and ran toward the door. Xiao Zhenxiong, blinded by the cat's attack, tried to grab Wang Zijin, but he couldn't see her. Enraged, he kicked the woman beside him. The house was in chaos. After Wang Zijin ran out, she looked back in disgust, stroking the cat's head. "Little Orange, do you think I did the right thing?" The fat orange cat licked its paws and meowed twice. To Wang Zijin, it was speaking in words she could understand. "You should have divorced him long ago. If that big black dog had treated me like this, I would have bitten him to death. I should have bitten Xiao Zhenxiong earlier. He dared to bully my master. Bite him to death." Wang Zijin comforted the cat by rubbing its head. "All right, actually, I was wrong too. I don't even know what's going on with me, Little Orange. Do you think I'll turn into a big monster? If that happens, you have to bite me to death, okay? My master is not a monster. My master is a little fairy. She'll never become a big monster. Master, hug me." Little Orange rubbed its face against Wang Zijin's, making her giggle as it tickled her. She sighed, amazed at how Little Orange could always cheer her up. Just earlier, Xiao Zhenxiong had called her old and ugly. At that moment, she suddenly turned her head and looked at the laurel tree she had planted at the entrance of her house 20 years ago. The thick trunk and lush green leaves almost completely concealed the man in black standing near its roots. If not for the laurel tree reminding her, she might not have noticed him. The laurel tree said, "Master, he has been watching you for a long time. Could he be your lost eldest son?" Wang Zijin's eldest son had been stolen right after birth, and she had never stopped looking for him. She had even asked the laurel tree to keep an eye out. Hearing this, she walked over with excitement, carefully examining the tall man at least 1.9 meters. He wore a black mask and hood, with only his narrowed eyes visible, his long lashes trembling slightly. As he lifted his thin eyelids, his black eyes, like ice, spoke coldly, "I'm not your son." Chapter 2, He Might Even Kill You. After marrying Xiao Zhenxiong, Wang Zicheng was required to become a housewife and rarely went out. But that didn't mean she didn't keep up with current affairs. On the contrary, she was particularly attentive, especially to reports about mutations caused by radiation pollution. Because she herself had mutated. She knew many people who had awakened special abilities. Some could spew fire, others could casually lift buildings, etc. But Wang Zicheng had never seen a power like hers, and there was no one around her who had abilities either. She felt like an anomaly, and for a time, she even thought she was going insane and didn't dare tell anyone. But when she saw this man, she was excited, feeling a strange sense of kinship, as though she had found someone like her. Without thinking, she moved a little closer to him. "Can you hear the bay laurel tree talking too? My name is Wang Zicheng, what's yours? Can you talk to me?" The man frowned slightly, his sharp brows drawing together. His eyes were still cold, but he answered her. "I'm from Special Task Force Team 1, Chen." His deep voice suddenly paused as he pressed his Bluetooth earpiece, straightened his broad shoulders, and stood up. "Received, I'll be there in 10 minutes. Hold on as best you can, stay safe." He spoke quickly, then moved with incredible speed, his long legs carrying him like a flash of light, disappearing in the blink of an eye, 10 meters away. Wang Zicheng was stunned. Was this the wind ability they had talked about in the reports? But wasn't he able to communicate with plants and animals like her? Does he have two abilities? Special Task Force Team 1, that was the strongest mutant team. If she could join the Special Task Force, which team would she be in? "Wang Zicheng. You dare to run, huh? Don't come back. Don't think you'll ever see me again. Don't think you'll ever see those kids of yours. Dear, my eyes are hurt, it hurts so much. Take me to the hospital. Didn't you say you love me the most? Didn't you say you'd even raise my lover and give them blood transfusions to help them get a kidney? What's wrong with you? Wang Zijin. You think your father will let you kick me out of the company? Your father won't agree, and neither will your stepmother. Wait and see. Xiao Zhenxiong's voice continued to shout in anguish from inside the house, not pausing for a second. Wang Zijin now realized that the man she had once loved so much she would have given her life for was really full of himself. Who gave him this confidence? It was her. Wang Zijin couldn't bear to look back at her past and walked out of the marriage home she had once sworn never to leave. She didn't bring anything with her, except for a cat. When she walked back to the Wang family's old house, it was already noon. Her father, Wang Jianfeng, her stepmother, and her younger sister were having a pleasant meal together. When they saw Wang Zijin returning alone, her clothes wrinkled and wearing a shabby nightgown, her father Wang Jianfeng opened his mouth immediately and said, "Did Xiao Zhenxiong bully you again? You deserve it. When I die, he might even kill you." These words had been said to Wang Zijin countless times before, but she had always argued back. Now, Wang Zijin agreed with him. She had nearly been killed by Xiao Zhenxiong. Her stepmother, however, was as gentle and caring as usual, walking over to comfort her. "You must be hungry, Zicheng. Come eat first, and later, Jianfeng and I will take you back. Don't worry, your stepmother will speak up for you." Wang Zicheng was speechless. She had never called her stepmother mom, and her stepmother had once been her classmate and best friend. They were the same age. Looking at her stepmother's snow-white hand resting on her own wrinkled hand, with pink diamond nail art on her fingers, it was a stark contrast. Wang Zicheng felt a brief moment of daze. She had never paid attention to these details before, but now, she wondered, why had she always cooked and cleaned for Xiao Zhenxiong? Not just for Xiao Zhenxiong, but even for his mistress, she had cooked and cleaned, endured it all, believing that loving him meant giving him everything. What had she been seeking all this time? Her stepmother guided her to the table. Her 20-year-old sister immediately moved away from Wang Zicheng, distancing herself. With a delicate, beautiful face, her sister expressed her dislike openly. "Don't sit so close to me. I'm not married yet. Don't spread your love-struck brain to me. You went and found such a fat, fickle man and treated him like a treasure." Oh! Her sister often mocked her, and her stepmother gently reprimanded her. "Qingqing, you need to be polite to your sister. Apologize to her, quickly." Of course, Wang Qingqing didn't apologize. She threw her bowl and chopsticks down and left the table. "This is so unlucky, I've lost my appetite. I'm going back to my room to read. Love you, Dad." Who doesn't love a playful and lively daughter? Wang Jianfeng didn't scold her at all. The wrinkles on his face deepened as he smiled even more. Her stepmother smiled too. "Qingqing has this personality, Zicheng, don't mind her. Please, your stepmother is begging you. Okay, Zicheng." Her stepmother always spoke in a humble tone, but Wang Zicheng had never spoken ill of Wang Qingqing. Before, she hadn't paid attention to them at all, focusing all her energy on Xiao Zhenxiong. Now she realized how much damage her stepmother's words had done. No wonder her father was increasingly indifferent to her. Wang Zicheng lifted her eyes and stared at her stepmother's carefully made-up face. She said, "I need to talk to Dad. Could you leave the table after you finish eating?" Her stepmother's face immediately soured, her eyes reddened with grievance. She glanced at Wang Jianfeng, hesitated, then nodded weakly. "Okay." "Okay, what okay? Your stepmother isn't a stranger. You still don't call her mom, but she does mind. Look at you." Wang Jianfeng, of course, wasn't happy. He tossed his chopsticks down onto the bowl, his temper just like Wang Qingqing's. This was what a true father-daughter relationship looked like. Wang Zicheng felt a cold sensation in her heart. Looking at her father's white hair and hunched body, she noticed he seemed even thinner. She glanced around and saw the lucky bamboo by the wall. She spoke up. "Dad, I'm getting a divorce. The procedures will be handled by your lawyer. Will you support me?" Wang Jianfeng. "Really? Are you really my daughter? Or is someone pretending to be you with cosmetic surgery?" Wang Zicheng gave a bitter smile. She had been so deeply immersed in her love-struck mindset with Xiao Zhenxiong that no one would believe she'd actually get divorced. She was the one who would never divorce, no matter what. Her stepmother was shocked too. Zicheng, what happened? Why do you want a divorce? Didn't you say you could never live without Jinxiong, without your children with him? Don't worry, your dad and stepmom are here. Jinxiong won't dare divorce you. It's me who wants the divorce. As for the kids. Wang Zicheng frowned. She didn't want to bring up the two children who only recognized their father and not their mother. But she retorted, it's because my dad controls the company, that's why Xiao Jinxiong didn't dare to divorce me. What does it have to do with you? Her stepmother's eyes reddened again. Jianfeng, I didn't mean it like that. Wang Jianfeng opened his mouth, but hadn't even had the chance to scold her when Wang Zicheng preemptively said, let us stop wasting time. Once we finish eating, let us leave Minute City. Dad, I have an ability now. I should be able to join the special task force. When that happens, I'll take you to the protection zone in Central City. It's the safest place, and it has the best doctors. I'll be able to cure your late-stage cancer. Chapter 3, Aunt. Are you waiting to die here? Wang Jianfeng had been suffering from a terminal illness for several years. Had it not been for Wang Zicheng asking about the lucky bamboo, she wouldn't have known about it. Her father had concealed it very well. It could also be said that she hadn't cared enough about her father in the past, being consumed by her love for Xiao Jinxiong, and neglecting the man who had raised her as a single parent. She remembered how her father had spoiled her when she was little, just like he did with Wang Qingqing. Had it not been for the incident when she had let her best friend stay the night, and her friend had ended up having an affair with her drunken father, he might not have married her best friend. That had turned her best friend into her stepmother. After her stepmother and younger sister came into the picture, her relationship with her father grew increasingly distant. She poured all her attention into Xiao Jinxiong, who had once passionately pursued her. Wang Zicheng regretted it deeply, her voice choking with emotion. I'm sorry, Dad. It's my fault. She was incredibly foolish. For Xiao Jinxiong, she nearly lost the father who had been so good to her. She couldn't afford to lose him. She had to join the special task force. Wang Jianfeng, after the shock, fell silent. But her stepmother couldn't help asking, how did you find out? What abilities do you have? Is it true? Are you really Zicheng? At this point, even her stepmother doubted that Wang Zicheng was the same person as before. Wang Zicheng didn't explain. She just set down her chopsticks and hurriedly went to her room to pack. She even packed her father's things. As for her stepmother and sister, they remained doubtful about Wang Zicheng's words. They didn't take any action, instead questioning Wang Jianfeng if his daughter had gone crazy. Wang Jianfeng was silent for a long time. Then, with trembling hands, he picked up his teacup and sighed. When Zicheng was born, she almost died along with her mother, but then, all of a sudden, she started to glow colorful, radiant. That's when she came back to life. A fortune teller once said she was the reincarnation of an immortal. Zicheng came to the mortal world to go through trials. Stepmother, younger sister. Neither Wang Zicheng nor her family could speak. She had heard her father say these things before, but from childhood, she had been raised with a strong belief in materialism. She didn't believe in gods or spirits, even though she could hear the voices of plants and animals. That was just due to the mutations. Under Wang Jianfeng's command, the whole family got into a Maybach heading toward the airport. Her stepmother and sister looked unwilling. Jianfeng, are we really just leaving like this? What about the company? What about the house? And Jinxiong, our grandson, are we really leaving without them? What if? What if what? Mommy, do you believe in Zicheng's crazy talk too? Let us just treat it like a vacation. Anyway, Daddy, you owe me the latest sports car and a set of pink diamond jewelry. Har har, I'll give you whatever you want, sweet daughter. Wang Jianfeng was sandwiched between the two women, indulgently smiling at them. After saying this, he finally remembered his oldest daughter sitting in the front, clearing his throat. What about Zicheng? Zicheng, what do you want? Wang Zicheng lowered her eyes in silence, feeling like an outsider. She didn't blame her father, she knew it was her own fault. She let her love for Xiao Jinxiong erode the affection her father once showered on her. Her father was willing to leave with her, maybe because he trusted her, or perhaps it was because he worried about his second wife and his precious daughter, Qingqing's safety. The airport wasn't far, but they were stuck in traffic for a long time. After what seemed like an eternity, they received news that the Special Task Force was clearing out mutated beings. The Special Task Force. Wang Zijin thought about the person she had met under the laurel tree. Was he part of the team? She glanced outside, where there was a sea of cars ahead, and in the distance, smoke was billowing into the sky, stretching across the horizon. An uneasy feeling stirred in her chest. When she got out of the car to get some fresh air, she asked a bird perched on a tree by the side of the road. The bird had just flown over from that direction and could also be said to have been summoned by Wang Zijin in her mind to deliver the news. It's too dangerous. This place is too dangerous. After the big dog monster was killed, many trees started eating people again. They've eaten so many. It's terrifying. Wang Zijin frowned. Just as the little orange had found out, many plants and animals were behaving oddly. Minute City was on the verge of collapse. She thought for a moment, then instructed her father to stay in the car and not to wander around. She also asked the little orange to keep watch here while she went ahead on her own. If the mutated beings couldn't be eliminated, they wouldn't be able to leave Minute City. They would have no choice but to wait for death. Riding the bicycle she had pulled out of the trunk, she struggled to make her way forward, feeling winded and exhausted. She finally arrived at a large apartment complex near the airport, where there was a large flow of people. It seemed that they had anticipated a large-scale mutation outbreak, and as a result, many people had died. Blood stained the collapsed ruins everywhere. Wang Zijin stopped outside the wreckage, unable to go any further. She could already hear the chaotic screams and cries for help from inside. There were mutated trees screaming and growling, their voices mixed with rustling sounds. The trees were talking. Damn humans! They killed our mother. We'll eat them. We'll avenge our mother. It hurts. They set fire to me. My leg is gone. Damn humans. I'll eat you. Raw. 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 Delicious. Too little. I want more. Eat. Wang Zijin shuddered in fear as she listened, but suddenly, a hoarse and deafening voice shouted right next to her. Aunt! Are you waiting to die here? Get out of here. You can't go in. You'll die. The man was shouting through a large white megaphone. His face was hard to see due to his scruffy beard, but from his broad, powerful build, he seemed to be younger than her. Wang Zijin was so startled she took several steps back. Lacking social interaction, she felt a little social anxiety. After hesitating for 2 seconds, she bravely stepped forward and timidly said, I can understand them. The man, holding his earpiece with one hand, yelled in frustration, 3 have died. 3. The mutated trees keep multiplying, we can't kill them all. Your reinforcements haven't arrived yet, just wait for me to collect the bodies. Oh, forget the bodies. I'm going to get eaten. Do you think I'm a cool team leader like you? I can't wait. Help. You think I can just pick up an ability user at random? Just as he was about to continue, he heard a soft and fearful voice from a woman nearby. The woman sounded scared, and rightfully so. Who wouldn't he be scared? He was scared too. The man impatiently turned around, shouting through the megaphone, I told you to leave, aunt, can't you hear me? Are you deaf? Get out. Wang Zijin was pushed by him. Tired and lacking physical fitness, she stumbled forward and fell. The man was stunned for a second, then hurriedly went to help her up. Aunt, are you okay? I just gave you a little push. Quickly get out. I need to go back and fight the monsters. Don't cause trouble. Wait, what did you just say? Say that again. His last sentence was clearly not meant for Wang Zijin, but he stared at her in shock. What? A woman who looks like she is 50 and has no strength, you think she could help me? Chapter 4, Do More Square Dancing in the Future. Wang Zijin wanted to refute that she was actually only 40 years old this year and her birthday was still more than 2 months away. But she didn't, and continued to quickly say what she hadn't finished before, I can understand what the mutants are saying, I can communicate with them, let me in. The bearded man still looked incredulous. Do you really have that super abnormal and rare ability to communicate with plants and animals? Can you really just grab one with your hands? But auntie, it's really dangerous in there. You might die. You can still regret it now. No regrets. Wang Zijin said decisively, even though she was so scared that she bit her pale lips. The bearded man was protecting her as she walked inside. The further inside she went, the more screams she heard. This time, she heard not only the sounds of animals and plants, but also human voices. The screams of humans were so miserable, painful, and desperate. Wang Zijin became more and more frightened. She might really die. But if she doesn't go in, will she avoid death? Even if she survives, what about her father's terminal cancer? Wang Zijin stumbled, but kept up with the bearded man's pace, and at the same time, delivered useful information to him as the bearded man said. The bearded man gave a brief explanation, saying that animals and plants are just like humans, not all of them will mutate, and the abilities of mutation are also different. They classified the mutants into different levels of strength, in the order of A, B, C, and D. The most common one was level D, which could be dealt with directly with guns and cannons. But those above level D will cause magnetic field interference, and nuclear bombers and the like cannot get close, and all signals will be blocked. Only those who have awakened their special powers can enter, or the mutants themselves can actively allow humans to enter and become their food. The mutated tree here is of Class C. He is now taking Wang Zijin in, which is the first case. It was finally confirmed that Wang Zijin was indeed a person with supernatural powers. But Wang Zijin was a little confused. She did not feel the magnetic field interference that the bearded man mentioned, and her hearing did not seem to be obstructed. She had been relaying the sounds she heard to the bearded man all the way until she reached the mutant's attack range. The words she spoke could clarify the source of the mutated tree. The bearded man was particularly shocked. "No, you are stronger. You are stronger than those two. But if you talk nonsense and trick me, you are dead, auntie." Wang Zijin pursed her lips and shook her head, her eyes still fixed in fear on a man with a flat head who was pierced through the waist by a swinging branch. The man with the flat head screamed in agony, his face covered in blood and tears. He cried and struggled hard, but his face was visibly shriveled. His flesh and blood were being devoured by the tree. Wang Zijin had seen the tragic scenes in the news, but none of them shocked and terrified her as much as she saw them in person. Blood splattered all over Wang Zijin's face. The hot blood of those who fought bravely against the mutants to protect humanity. The bearded man next to her had already rushed out, and together with the girl with pigtails who jumped over from a big tree on the other side, they took a lot of effort to rescue their companion who was almost eaten. The girl with pigtails swung her hand and a ball of blazing fire appeared, which drove away the bloody branch, even though her face was covered with tears from fear. "Captain! Captain, why are you back? Have the reinforcements arrived? Where are the reinforcements? We can't hold on any longer. We can't protect the people inside. What should we do, Captain?" Their team is Team 33, which is the team with the weakest superpowers, and they basically do the cleanup work. This time we came to Minute City. It was to clean up the debris after Team 1 eliminated the B-level mutant dog, collect specimens, and check the surrounding mutation situation. The mutants spread through reproduction, so there is a high possibility that some of them will be missed, but they didn't expect that several mutant trees would be missed. Sea level. Even if they were deployed as a team, they could only control 1 or 2 trees at most, and now the casualties are extremely serious. But they didn't dare to retreat. If they took a step back, the residents trapped inside by the mutated tree would be eaten by the mutated tree. They were looking forward to reinforcements and hoping that Team 1, which had moved to other areas, would come back quickly, but they really couldn't hold on any longer. The girl with pigtails was young after all. She cried bitterly as she looked at her dying teammate, but she did not stop attacking and continued to hold the defense line. The bearded man handed the wounded man to her and ordered loudly, "Don't cry. Evacuate him immediately. Contact the gardeners to bring in the mother tree of the mutant tree. Go." Although the girl with pigtails was confused, she was very professional and didn't ask any questions. She ran outside hurriedly carrying the wounded man with great effort. When she passed by Wang Zijin, she responsibly shouted, "Auntie, run. It's dangerous here." Wang Zijin couldn't run away. She had been so frightened that her legs went weak since she came in. Fortunately, the place where Big Beard had placed her was relatively safe. She heard the bearded man's arrangements and realized that these trees transplanted from the garden had mistaken their mother. Although I don't know why they mistook the mutated dog for their mother, they were seeking revenge, which is why they attacked humans so crazily. If Big Beard asked Pigtail to move the mother tree over, it would indeed have an impact on these mutated trees and give them a chance to rescue people. But it was too time-consuming, they were still suffering casualties, and there was no guarantee that reinforcements would arrive. Wang Zijin thought about it seriously, and then negotiated with the mutated trees in his heart, telling them that they had recognized the wrong mother and that their mother was coming. But the mutant tree didn't listen to her at all. It called her a liar and threatened to eat her. The bloody branch flew towards her with a whoosh sound, and Wang Zijin could even see the dense thorns on it. It's like a gaping bloody mouth. Wang Zijin was so frightened that his blood froze, while the bearded man in the distance was jumping up and down with two guns in his left and right hands, attacking the mutated tree. He kept an eye on the interpreter he brought in to ensure her safety. Seeing this, he immediately aimed at her and shouted, "Get down! Auntie, get down quickly!" Before he could say a word, or even aim, he saw a flock of blackbirds flying over from somewhere, rushing straight towards the branch and pecking at it. In the blink of an eye, all the thorns on the branches were pecked off by the birds. The branch trembled, then shrank back with a whoosh. The flock of birds also dispersed, leaving only Wang Zijin standing there stiffly and trembling. The bearded man didn't have time to think about what was going on with the flock of birds. He quickly ran over and grabbed Wang Zijin's arm. "Auntie, your mission is accomplished. Get out now." Wang Zijin was very frightened. Although she summoned animals and plants for help in her heart, she was not sure that any animals or plants would come to save her. The mutants are very powerful, and both animals and plants are afraid of them. She can hear their frightened sounds. But they came to help her anyway. Wang Zijin thanked the flock of birds gratefully, and tried to summon more animals and plants to help, so that the chances of rescuing the trapped hostages would be greater. However, she did not succeed this time. Instead, she felt dizzy, her head was spinning more and more, and blood flowed from her nose. The bearded man quickly supported her, carried her on his shoulder with one hand and ran out, complaining, "Auntie, your physical fitness is not good. Your nose bleeds like a fountain when you use your supernatural power. Go do more square dancing in the future." Wang Zijin felt dizzy and his consciousness was gradually blurring. As he walked backwards and saw a bumpy vision, he vaguely saw a black shadow rushing towards the mutated tree at the speed of light. In his hand, he held a long sword wrapped in black cloth. With one clean swing, the tree broke in two. Chapter 5, Still Divorcing Your Cheating Husband. "Master! Master, wake up! Master, if you don't wake up, your kind will leave." Wang Zijin was woken up by Xiao Juzi. She opened her eyes groggily and found herself lying in a narrow RV, sleeping on a small bed with cartoon patterns. Little Orange lay on Wang Zijin's shoulder, rubbing his fat head against hers, a big, heavy lump. Wang Zijin was helpless. No wonder he felt as if there was a mountain pressing down on him in his dream just now, and it took him a long time to move the mountain like Yugong. "What time is it? My dad and the others. Little Orange. How is the mutant tree? Have those people been rescued? And those little birds?" Wang Zijin thought of the group of birds that saved her and that the bloody battle was not over yet, so she anxiously got up from the bed. The person outside heard the noise and ran in quickly. It was the girl with the pigtails. "Auntie, you finally woke up. Don't worry, we have rescued everyone, we have also destroyed the mutated tree, and we have saved Minute City." The girl with pigtails had a round face full of joy. She said, "Team 1 is amazing. They killed those mutant trees just like cutting vegetables." Bang! All the mutant trees fell down. "We in Team 33 are useless except for getting military ranks and benefits." Sigh. The girl with pigtails was emo again. Before Wang Zijin had the chance to comfort her, she hugged Wang Zijin excitedly and kept praising him excitedly. "Auntie, you are so amazing. The captain said you have the ability to communicate with animals and plants. This is a super rare and super useful ability. There are no more than 10 of them on our entire planet, and there are only 2 in our country. Auntie, you have brought honor to our country. You are awesome. Wang Zijin, thank you." Wang Zijin blushed at the praise, even though she herself didn't understand what her own usefulness was. Is it precious because it is rare? Little Orange was so angry that his hair stood on end. Flatterer. I met someone who is trying to steal my job. Master, look at me, look at me. Don't look at the flatterer. Wang Zijin rubbed Xiao Juzi's head and said embarrassedly, "I didn't help at all, and I fainted and caused you trouble." I. Har har har. Auntie, your physical fitness is indeed poor, but your supernatural powers are not bad, they are very strong. The bearded man came in from outside with a big laugh. He still looked like that sloppy, rough man, with his face unwashed and stained with blood, but when he smiled his teeth were dazzlingly bright. A very cheerful and sunny man. "Auntie, you are very strong." He gave a thumbs up, his thick eyebrows and big eyes sparkling. The investigation results said that the reason why the mutant tree mutated is that there are mutant dog puppies buried under the tree. Those trees absorbed the genes of the puppies and mistook the mutant dog for their mother. There is also an infection chain between mutant plants. This has never been seen before. This is a major discovery. If Team 1 hadn't arrived so quickly, you would have been awarded the first-class merit. Wang Zijin. She had never been praised before, but this time she was praised by both of them at once. She was so flattered that she was surprised. The bearded man patted her shoulder and said solemnly, "Auntie, would you like to join my 33rd team? Not only will you get paid, but I can also take you to exercise. Old people should exercise more." Wang Zijin, thank you. However, Wang Zijin's goal is to join the special forces. So, under the excited encouragement of the girl with the braided hair, she nodded seriously and said, "Okay, then can I bring my family?" "Captain Liu. It's bad. Chen Ji is seriously injured. The doctor said he is dying. Chen Ji wants to see you." Someone reported from outside. The bearded man's face suddenly turned dark, and he turned around and left in a hurry. The girl with pigtails also ran out crying sadly. Wang Zijin stayed where he was, holding little Orange in his arms, muttering, "Chen Ji. Chen." Her face turned pale and she quickly chased after them with little Orange in her arms, following them into another larger RV not far away. The car was full of medical equipment. The doctor in the white coat had blood on his hands. He said tiredly and desperately, "I tried my best, but I can't save Chen Ji, Laolu." The man in the white coat was crying, and the bearded man patted his shoulder with red eyes and walked inside with heavy steps. Wang Zijin hurriedly followed but was stopped by the man in the white coat. "Sorry, no unauthorized entry is allowed here." The man in the white coat had a hoarse voice, but he still had to take responsibility. Wang Zijin opened her mouth and wanted to explain something, but she had no idea how to explain it. She and her fellow were not familiar with each other at all. But she was still very sad when she thought about the loss of her kind. Her eyes were red when she carried the cat out. "Why are you crying?" Suddenly, a young man's voice came from the side, a little cold and a little familiar. Wang Zijin suddenly raised her head and met the man's deep black eyes outside the mask. It was like a mysterious abyss covered with ice that could suck her in. Wang Zijin inexplicably felt dangerous, but this was someone of her kind. Her kind is not dead and is still standing here. Wang Zijin felt embarrassed, rubbed his eyes and whispered, "I thought the Chen Ji in there was you. Isn't your name Chen Ji?" The man stared at her scrutinizingly and said, "My name is Chen Jin." Wang Zijin said, "Oh," and sincerely extended a hand. "Hello Chen Jin, my name is Wang Zijin, you can call me Aunt Wang, I am good at cooking and washing clothes." "Oh." Wang Zijin was even more embarrassed. She was not good at communicating, so she could only say the truth, "Can I be your friend? I have a question, can I consult you?" Chen Jin had a blank expression on his face. He held his long sword wrapped in black cloth in both hands, rubbing the ancient dark patterns on the hilt with his white fingertips, and said nothing. Wang Zijin looked at the sword and thought of the moment before he fell into a coma. It turned out that it was not an illusion. He was really strong. Her hand was a little weak, so she had to take it back with a red face. "Sorry, I'm so abrupt. I'll go over there and wait for the captain." She wanted to go back to the RV she had been in before, but just as she took a step, she heard Chen Jin speak. "Captain? Liu Yingchuan? Have you joined Team 33, he asked. Wang Zijin then realized that the bearded man was Liu Yingchuan. He nodded and said, "I am ready to join, but I haven't. Team 33 is not suitable for you." Chen Jin lightly circled his fingers on the long sword, and with a casual turn, the sword floated lightly beside him. There was no need to hold it, it just floated like that. Wang Zijin was stunned. "Superpowers." Chen Jin explained calmly, and continued, "I heard about your performance when I was talking to Liu Yingchuan. Your superpowers are very strong. You are overqualified for Team 33. Come back to the Central City with me." Central City. It hits their heart. Wang Zijin was immediately moved, but she had already promised Liu Yingchuan, and she was not a person who did not keep her word. So she shook her head and refused, with a very good reason: I'm old and in poor health. I can't run around and work hard with you young people. Heh. Chen Jin suddenly laughed, very short, very cold, and full of sarcasm. Wang Zijin looked at him in confusion, but saw that he still had a cold expression on his face. At least the eyes above the mask were very cold. Wang Zijin, he also lowered his eyes to look at her, and said coldly, think about it again, the salary of Team 1 is higher than that of Team 33, and I can also take you to exercise. As for your family. He leaned forward slightly and stared at Wang Zijin more closely. Why don't you divorce your cheating husband and keep him for the new year? Chapter 6, Old Cow and Young Grass. Wang Zijin was shocked. She didn't expect that Chen Jin knew all the conditions she had discussed with Liu Yingchuan. And, did he hear everything that time under the laurel tree? Family disgrace should not be made public, and Wang Zijin was embarrassed again. She opened her mouth and wanted to say that she was already getting a divorce, but Chen Jin was about to leave after receiving an emergency mission communication. Take this and you can report directly to Team 1 in the central city. Chen Jin took off an ancient dark silver ring from his finger and handed it to Wang Zijin. Wang Zijin was stunned and waved his hands hurriedly. No, I won't go. Don't be so quick to refuse. Chen Jin stuffed it into her hand and turned away. Wang Zijin, we'll see each other again. He was very fast and Wang Zijin couldn't catch up with him at all. I can only sigh that Team 1 is really busy and exhausted, and it is really not suitable for her as an elderly person. Looking at the ring in his hand, fortunately it didn't look like a wedding ring, and Chen Jin's simple outfit didn't seem like he could afford any other keepsake. Wang Zijin looked herself up and down, then carefully placed the ring in the most secure pocket. The little orange in his arms meowed, Master, Master. Ring, ring. Didn't you say that your ring is a symbol of Xiao Zhenxiong's love for you? This ring is also a symbol of his love for you. Congratulations to the master on his second marriage. Wang Zijin held his forehead in his hand speechlessly. Xiao Juzi, don't talk nonsense. This ring is not that ring. It's just a token of love. Although she is in love, no, she used to be in love. But she is now sober and explains, I left the wedding ring in the wedding room after I said I wanted a divorce. Xiao Zhenxiong doesn't love me, and Chen Jin is even less likely to love me. To Chen Jin, I am like an old cow and young grass. Young grass doesn't want to be eaten by an old cow. Do you understand? The little orange licked his paw in confusion, then nodded. Chen Jin is the old cow. Wang Zijin, I am the old cow. Wang Zijin was tired and suddenly remembered something important. She asked, you said that when my dad and the others were waiting for me, Zhu Moli called Xiao Zhenxiong. Zhu Moli is the stepmother. Little orange nodded. Yes. Zhu Moli asked Xiao Zhenxiong to come to the airport together. Xiao Zhenxiong asked what to do with the child. Zhu Moli said not to worry about it, he would be back after traveling for a while, and then your father came over, and she hung up the phone. Later, Xiao Zhenxiong really came alone, but he didn't leave because he was sent home by the police. So I sneaked out to look for my master. Wang Zijin touched Xiao Juzi's head that was rubbing against him, and wondered thoughtfully, is Zhu Moli too concerned about Xiao Zhenxiong and the two children? Also, Xiao Zhenxiong told her that even if her father agreed to their divorce, Zhu Moli would not agree. Why? She was thinking about her own things until Liu Yingchuan and the others came out of the RV. It was already dark. Auntie, sorry for keeping you waiting. Liu Yingchuan's eyes were still bloodshot and his voice was hoarse. He coughed before speaking again. Auntie, you've seen it too. In this line of work, casualties are inevitable. Although your abilities are valuable, you can choose not to join. Wang Zijin's eyes widened, and he became a little anxious. Captain Liu, do you want to go back on your word? You have already invited me, and you can't go back on your word. Liu Yingchuan, har har har. Liu Yingchuan was amused by her. His tired, tense and overly sad body leaned against the RV and laughed for a long time, then he relaxed. Okay. He sighed, speaking much faster, then you are now a new member of Team 33. We will leave Minute City tonight, so go get ready and leave together. He drove Wang Zijin himself and sent her back to the Wang family's old house. On their way, he submitted Wang Zijin's application to take her father and his family to the central city. Wang Zijin felt relieved and happily pushed open the door of the villa. At first glance, she saw the person she least wanted to see. Xiao Zhenxiong is here. Xiao Zhenxiong was standing next to the fountain. His fat body cast a large shadow on the light, and a piece of his skirt could be vaguely seen from his arms. Pink. Zhu Moni and Wang Qingqing both like pink, so they both wore pink dresses today. Wang Zijin frowned and said to Lu Yingchuan beside him, "Captain Lu, I can go in and get my luggage by myself. You just wait for me outside, okay?" Lu Yingchuan also saw the two people kissing, and turned his face away. "Okay, then you." "Dad. That ugly woman is back." "Hey, you brought a man back." "Dad, that ugly woman is going to cheat on you. Beat her up." Two voices, one male and one female, full of disdain and malice, came from the school uniformed boys who were picking flowers and making wreaths on the other side of the fountain. Wang Zijin has two children, sister Xiao Shui is 17 years old and brother Xiao Lei is 14 years old. They just stood beside Xiao Zhenxiong and watched him hug other women and kiss them. Not only did he not stop it, he also tipped off Xiao Zhenxiong, mocked their mother, and instigated their father to beat their mother. What kind of family is this? It completely shattered Lu Yingchuan's three views. He looked at Wang Zijin beside him worriedly, but found that although Wang Zijin no longer had a smile on his face, he was not angry either, and his face was as calm as stagnant water. "Perhaps it's because I've become accustomed to this expression of despair." Wang Zijin said to him, "Captain, I'm sorry, you may have to wait for me for a while. I will do my best and will not delay the trip." Lu Yingchuan was silent for a moment. Before she could say anything, she heard their dad mentioned by her children again and started cursing. "Wang Zijin, what do you mean? Are you crazy enough to bring a wild man to show off in front of me just to keep me? You are so ugly, and you think you can find a wild man? You can tell he was bought with money. You dare to steal money from home, and you want your hands to be broken, right? And you? Spit out the money. Quickly. Don't think I won't beat you up just because you're tall and strong. I have a bunch of bodyguards, owl." Xiao Zhenxiong's finger was pointing at Lu Yingchuan's nose. Lu Yingchuan could no longer bear it, but he didn't bear it at all. He grabbed Xiao Zhenxiong's wrist directly, and there was a crisp sound of a bone being dislocated. The pain was so severe that Xiao Zhenxiong could only scream like a pig being slaughtered. "Dad! Let Dad go! Xiao Lei, wait a minute! Dad, hold on! My brother and I will help you call a bodyguard." The two siblings, one impulsive and the other calm, worked together to rescue their father. This was the kind of parent-child love that Wang Zijin had never enjoyed before. Although she felt that she had never treated her two children badly, she still showed special care and concern for them and always asked about their well-being. She was so meticulous that every pair of their socks was sewn by her own hands. But the two children never felt grateful to her. They even thought she was annoying, ugly, stupid, and that she stayed at home every day, like a frog in a well. Frankly said he wanted to change his mother. Therefore, they never objected to their father's life of debauchery, cheating on their fathers, bringing lovers home, and being intimate with them in front of them. They just want their father to kick out their annoying mother and find them a young, beautiful, smart and capable stepmother. Chapter 7. She's not the only one cuckolded. "Auntie Wang, why would you keep a husband like this for the new year without divorcing him?" Lu Yingchuan offered a piece of advice to this family whose worldviews had exploded. "I'm not meddling. I'm just concerned about my subordinates. The captain won't harm you." Wang Zijin smiled slightly to express his gratitude. She had only heard Chen Jin say something similar in the afternoon, and had no time to explain at the time. Now she explained seriously, "We are already getting a divorce, and we will receive the divorce certificate tomorrow at the latest." The materials she prepared were very sufficient, and no matter how much Xiao Zhenxiong disagreed with the divorce, they had to get divorced. Xiao Zhenxiong was about to scold again, but Lu Yingchuan increased his strength to stop him. He nodded with relief. "It's still possible to save them. Do you still want these two naughty kids?" "Who are you saying is the naughty kid?" "You are the naughty kid." The two children retorted in unison. Wang Zijin thought that this word was really appropriate and shook his head decisively. "No. Who cares if you want it?" Xiao Shui said with disgust, "You ugly woman. Not even half as pretty as your grandmother. If you weren't ugly and stupid, I wouldn't be laughed at by Wang Qingqing. Why don't you just die?" Wang Zijin said numbly and coldly, "So, you just want your little grandmother to be your new mother?" Xiao Shui widened her eyes in surprise. Xiao Lei, who was still relatively immature, asked in confusion, did you see what just happened? Xiao Shui covered Xiao Lei's mouth. You're seeing things. It wasn't the little grandma just now, it was Wang Qingqing. Daddy has sand in his eyes, and she was blowing it for him. The little grandma and grandpa have been sleeping for a long time. Wang Zijin said, okay, then I'll ask Wang Qingqing. No. Xiao Shui's face flushed, she rolled her eyes, and stammered, Wang Qingqing doesn't want to see you, she hates you, she's disgusted by you. It was the same lines again. Wang Zijin didn't want to waste any more time. She looked at Xiao Zhenxiong, who also looked nervous, and said, I have something urgent to do. Forget about it today. Take your son and daughter and leave. The Wang family doesn't welcome you. Don't come again. Xiao Zhenxiong naturally refused to leave. His whole fat face turned black with anger and his fat flesh was trembling. Wang Zijin. You dare to chase me away? You will lose me. You will never see me again. Xiao Juzi, chase them out. Wang Zijin put down the cat that was eating melon in his arms. Little Orange sharpened its claws, jumped up and started to scratch Xiao Zhenxiong's eyes, which were still covered with gauze. Xiao Zhenxiong was scared so much that he ran away, pissing his pants and cursing. The two children were also scared away by the cat and ran faster than their fat father. Wang Zijin immediately closed the large carved iron door, then raised his pale face tiredly and said, I'm sorry, Captain, I made a fool of myself. I'll go wake my dad up right away. It's okay, Lu Yingchuan waved his hand, squinted his eyes and looked upstairs, and whispered, someone was peeking in that room just now, wearing a pink skirt. Wang Zijin was already certain that the person just now was her stepmother. She didn't need Lu Yingchuan to remind her. She could just ask the plants in the garden and she would know. But she still expressed her gratitude to Lu Yingchuan for his generous help. God knows how long it has been since she felt the warmth of humanity. Her environment was so cold and harsh that she almost thought that her world was dark. It feels so good to see the light again. Wang Zijin went straight to the second floor and knocked on her father's bedroom door. The person who opened the door was Zhu Moli, with disheveled hair and a pink suspender nightgown. Zhu Moli rubbed her eyes, looking sleepy, and asked, Zijin. You're back? What happened? Your father finally fell asleep, don't wake him up. Wang Zijin glanced coldly at the petals stuck to Zhu Moli's hair, which were the same pink roses as the wreath woven by Xiao Shui and Xiao Lei. Although it has been confirmed that it was Zhu Moli, Wang Zijin still found it a little hard to accept. Zhu Moli was her stepmother. Not only she was cheated on, but also her father. If his father knew about this, he would definitely be very sad, but his father is in the advanced stage of cancer and cannot be stimulated anymore. This is also why Wang Zijin said, let's forget about it today. She cannot expose them now and has to wait. Wang Zijin took a deep breath and said, I'm here to pick up Dad from Minute City. You will stay here from now on. I will take care of Dad. What? You want me to stay? Zhu Moli was surprised, then quickly shook her head, her voice became louder, and she cried softly. No, you can't stop me and Jianfeng from being together just because you hate me. I want to be with Jianfeng, wherever we go. Please, Zijin, please don't break up Jianfeng and I. The crying was so loud that Wang Zijin felt his eardrums throbbing. Wang Jianfeng, who was sleeping on the bed, naturally opened his eyes with difficulty. It was very difficult. Wang Zijin saw clearly that her father's illness must not be delayed any longer. So, after Wang Jianfeng hugged the crying and coquettish Zhu Moli and said that he would take Zhu Moli with him if he left, otherwise he would not leave at all, Wang Zijin immediately compromised. In fact, she understood her father's feelings very well. When you love someone, you will not turn back until you hit the wall. And she was even more unwilling to look back even after her head was broken and bleeding, and no one knew why she suddenly came to her senses. She thought that her love brain was probably inherited from her father. Both father and daughter were tortured by the love brain and suffered greatly from it. Wang Zijin kept her word and soon got into Lu Yingchuan's car with her father, stepmother, and Wang Qingqing, who looked resentful. Lu Yingchuan explained to Wang Zijin that each member of their 33 teams had an RV, so they could set up camp wherever they were assigned to carry out missions. I also applied for a new one for Wang Zijin, who had just joined the team. He can pick it up when he reports back to the central city. As the team leader, Lu Yingchuan often convenes team members for meetings, and the RV is considered to be quite large. But things were in a mess, and as soon as they got on the bus, there was a smell of stinky socks, which made Wang Qingqing and her daughter vomit on the spot. What the hell? I don't want to get in this car. I want to ride in our Maybach. Daddy. Daddy. Wang Qingqing shook Wang Jianfeng angrily. Wang Jianfeng doted on his little daughter, and he almost vomited, but Liu Yingchuan didn't give him a chance to speak. Of course, but the journey is long. If you are attacked by mutants on the way, can your Maybach protect you? My car is specially made. You can't buy it even with 10 Maybachs. Liu Yingchuan pressed a button on the control console, and the car door slammed shut with a bang, followed by a blue light with a strong sense of technology. Welcome to the special team's special vehicle. I am the smart voice baby. I have activated the safety protection for you and the automatic emergency combat system. The baby will protect you throughout the journey. The R's voice is gentle and charming, and it has 3D surround sound, just like a beautiful woman speaking into your ear. Wang Zijin was so shocked that he trembled tinglingly and was a little confused. Is this true for all AIS, or just this car's? Could her car also make the same sound? But the confusion didn't last long, because with the introduction of AI, guns and cannons extended out of the RV, scaring Wang Qingqing and her daughter to scream again. Can you not scream? Originally, Wang Qingqing and her daughter had never seen real guns and artillery shells, and the muzzles of the guns were all pointed at them. Chapter 8. You feel much younger. Wang Zijin was also shocked, but the reason she was shocked was that she didn't understand why Liu Yingchuan pointed a gun at Wang Qingqing and her daughter. Liu Yingchuan seemed to have just discovered the problem and said in surprise, the direction is wrong, sorry. Wang Qingqing jumped up and down in anger. You did it on purpose. You are helping Wang Zijin to take revenge on us. Are you blind? You like Wang Zijin's old and ugly face. Do you know that Wang Zijin is married? She even gave birth to 3 children. Even her husband thinks she is ugly. But it's true, you're ugly too. You're so ugly with that big beard on your face. And you use such a vulgar and disgusting AI voice. You look like a poor and ugly loser who can't get a wife. Only a poor, ugly loser would be interested in that ugly bastard Wang Zijin. You are just a blind. Wang Qingqing. Wang Zijin frowned and spoke in a cold tone. If you don't want to ride in this car, get off and ride in your Maybach. She was a little angry. Not only did he scold her, but he even dared to scold her boss. If her boss gets angry and fires her, what will happen to her father's illness? It was rare for Wang Zijin to be assertive, but Wang Qingqing had always looked down on her, so how could she listen to her? Wang Qingqing opened her mouth in disdain and was about to continue cursing, but her mother pulled her away and winked at her to stop. Zhu Moli was not as young and energetic as Wang Qingqing. She said softly, Qingqing didn't mean it. She was just too sad and too worried about her father's health. Zijin, you can understand, right? Please forgive Qingqing and don't kick us out of the car. Please. Wang Zijin was very familiar with her stepmother's routine, and sure enough, the next second, she heard Wang Jianfeng's angry voice. She dares. Wang Jianfeng hugged his wife and youngest daughter to comfort her, but glared at his eldest daughter Wang Zijin, unfilial daughter. If you want to kick them out of the car, kick me out as well. Wang Zijin sighed and said calmly, okay, if you make another noise, we will get off the car together and become food for the mutants. Wang Jianfeng et al. After all, they are afraid of death. Although this car is smelly and hard to sit in, it looks safe, much safer than their Maybach. It was as quiet as a chicken along their way, only Liu Yingchuan would occasionally say TSK and give Wang Zijin a thumbs up in appreciation. Auntie Wang, you're amazing. You're surrounded by so many weird relatives. How did you grow up and become so old? It's not easy. I admire you so much. Wang Zijin. He is really good at talking, she admires him very much. The RV looked bulky, but it was very fast, faster than a supercar, and it arrived at the temporary base of Team 33 in a short while. Several girls with pigtails were waiting there, but they were all in low spirits, just like when Wang Zijin left. Chen Ji, after all, could not be saved. Originally, half of Team 33 had been sacrificed in this mission, with 2 seriously injured and 1 dead. Now with Liu Yingchuan and Wang Zijin, there are only 5 people left. Liu Yingchuan asked them to transport the dead and injured teammates to his car, and he wanted to take his teammates home safely. As for Wang Zijin and others, he arranged them to stay in the RV of the other 3 teammates. The girl with pigtails took the initiative to pull Wang Zijin, asked her to go with her, and also agreed to let Wang Zijin bring Wang Jianfeng along. But Wang Jianfeng was unwilling to separate from Zhu Moli, and Wang Zijin had to give up after trying to persuade him. Their 4 cars drove towards the central city in the thick night. Too many tasks are waiting for them, leaving them no time to rest. Wang Zijin held the cat, nestled in the bed of the girl with pigtails, and stroked the cat's head together with the girl with pigtails. The girl with pigtails said her name was Feng Xiaojia. She was 18 years old, and also introduced several other teammates, including their captain Lu Yingchuan. Feng Xiaojia was so tired that he kept nodding his head as he spoke. He continued, "The captain is good in every way except his temper. If he hadn't fallen out with Team 1, he wouldn't have condescended to join our Team 33. What a pity." Speaking of Team 1, Wang Zijin wanted to ask about Chen Jin, but the next second she heard Feng Xiaojia's soft snoring, and she had fallen asleep leaning against her. Wang Zijin was stunned for a long time. It had been a long time since anyone had been so friendly with her. She felt warm in her heart. The more she looked at Feng Xiaojia, the more she wished she was her own daughter. Feng Xiaojia and Xiao Shui are obviously about the same age, so why are their personalities so different? When Xiao Shui and Xiao Lei were very young, they would hug her and say, "I love you mom" all the time, but now they have become ugly woman, die. When did these changes begin? Wang Zijin thought seriously about those chaotic memories, but all he could think of during that period of time was Xiao Zhenxiong, and everything else was very vague. It seemed as if everything was faded into black and white, leaving only Xiao Zhenxiong standing out, attracting all her attention. She didn't want to see Xiao Zhenxiong again, not even in her memory. She tried hard to block him out and think about other things, such as her future life and her father's illness. She thought anxiously and expectantly, and fell asleep in a daze. "I thought I would have nightmares like in previous years, but unexpectedly I slept until dawn." She hadn't had such a sound and full sleep for a long, long time. "I feel that my depression symptoms of many years have been alleviated with the divorce, including headaches, back pains, rhinitis and pharyngitis, which are no longer as severe." She even felt as if she could see her own veins, one by one, intricate, thick and turbid, slowly crawling. A bit ugly. Wang Zijin frowned and tried several times before finding out that it was not an illusion. Could this be another of her special abilities? But it seems to be of no use. Compared with other psychics, it is too useless. Wang Zijin searched for 2 days but couldn't find any attack power, and that night, they encountered the mutant again. The AI alarm sounded in the car. It was a very sweet and normal female voice. "Alert! D-level danger alert. The automatic emergency combat system has been activated. Error alarm. Human vital signs have been detected. The combat system has been suspended. Please operate manually." D-level mutants are indeed very common. Wang Zijin has witnessed 2 automatic combat modes on the road, but this time the mutant took hostages. Wang Zijin quickly got up, put on his clothes and shoes in no time, and arrived at the car door before Feng Xiaojia. Feng Xiaojia unlocked the car with facial recognition and said to Wang Zijin in a comforting tone, "Don't be afraid, Aunt Wang. This kind of D-class mutant is easy to deal with. Let's go rescue their hostages first, and you can get some beauty sleep in the car." She paused for a moment, and moved closer to look at Wang Zijin's face in shock. "Auntie Wang, I see you every day and you don't use any makeup or skin care products. How come you look so much younger and have fewer wrinkles?" Chapter 9. You're wearing makeup. Wang Zijin doesn't like looking in the mirror. She hasn't looked in the mirror for a long time and she almost forgot what she looks like. The reason is simple: I have been called ugly all the time, which made me feel inferior and timid. I dare not look in the mirror and I will avoid it when I see it. Now, she didn't want to look in the mirror because she heard the sound of the mutant. "Family. Family, come quickly. There are humans here. Delicious humans. Slurp. The mutants are calling their own kind. I don't know if there are more mutants. It's very dangerous here." Wang Zijin was anxious to see outside, and before she even opened the door, she seemed to vaguely see a huge crow standing on top of the group of cars. It was a very large crow, larger than their RV, with a crying baby in its mouth and a desperate mother with tears on her face under its claws. "Let my child go. Help. Save my child. Who will save my child?" Wang Zijin's heart sank as he watched. As soon as the car door opened, he staggered out, while talking to the mutated crow in his mind. "Don't hurt them. Wang Zijin didn't know what to say to save the baby who had been half swallowed. She didn't dare say a wrong word, just like what she said to the mutated tree before. The mutated tree didn't believe her and became murderous. But we must act quickly, otherwise when other mutants come, we won't be able to save the mother and child. Wang Qingqing also bravely got off the car. She hid behind the team members tremblingly, and looked at Wang Zijin with contempt, disgust and jealousy. Is the ability to communicate with animals and plants so great? I can only watch helplessly and can't help at all. Why can she join the special forces? If she can join, why can't I? Why? Wang Qingqing learned a lot along the way and also wanted to join the special team. This is the most attractive job in the world today. It is safe and you are surrounded by colleagues with special abilities. But the captain Lu Yingchuan, whom she called a loser, ignored her, so she could only complain about the other members of the RV she was riding in. The team member was a hot-blooded young man who was very caring towards the beautiful Wang Qingqing and was still protecting her. Hearing this, he also echoed, yes, she is an old woman who can't do anything. How can she compare to the beautiful Qingqing? Don't worry, if you marry me, I will ensure that you can join the special forces and be a logistical recorder. Who wants to do logistics? Marry you. Wang Qingqing's eyes were filled with disdain. Although the other party was decent looking, his official position was too low and he was not worthy of her, a top rich lady with both talent and beauty. But now she still needs this man's protection, so she said delicately, I need to observe you more to see if you are good to me, so please behave well. The teammate got the advantage and was so excited that he was rubbing his hands together, which made Feng Xiaojia next to Wang Zijin retch quietly. How disgusting. Zhao Yang is so disgusting. It's already this late and is not thinking about saving people but flirting with girls. But, how can we save them? Feng Xiaojia was also very anxious when she saw the cruel scene. They didn't dare attack casually, for fear that the mutant crow would accidentally swallow the baby or trample the mother to death. Where is the captain? The captain is there. Let's go over there quickly. Feng Xiaojia pulled Wang Zijin and ran towards Lu Yingchuan. Lu Yingchuan observed the situation and ordered Zhao Yang, use your earth-related ability to get through underground. While I am distracting the mutants, find the right opportunity to rescue the hostages. You must ensure the safety of the hostages. Do you hear me? Lu Yingchuan spoke in a stern tone, and the smiling Zhao Yang no longer dared to laugh. He just obediently and timidly replied, yes. Wang Qingqing, who was standing behind Zhao Yang, was not happy and interrupted, why are you so fierce? What's so great about being a captain? You're ugly, poor, and smelly. Lu Yingchuan interrupted her directly, Zhao Yang, go over here immediately. When Zhao Yang received the order, his body immediately turned into fibers, softened like a pool of mud and sand, and burrowed into the ground. He also touched Wang Qingqing's ankle. Wang Qingqing screamed in shock and shame, stomping her high heels hard, Zhao Yang. You stinky hooligan. She flirted coquettishly, but when she looked at Lu Yingchuan, she turned contemptuous, what kind of rotten people are in your team? Each one is more disgusting than the other. No wonder you accepted a disgusting ugly bastard like Wang Zijin. Wang Qingqing stopped talking before she could finish her words, because Feng Xiaojia pulled Wang Zijin in front of her. The headlights of several RVs were on brightly, as bright as day. She could clearly see that Wang Zijin had changed, although it was a very subtle change. You? Wang Qingqing was a little confused. Wang Zijin, you put on makeup. Weird, I've never seen you put on makeup. Didn't you say that your husband doesn't like you to wear makeup, so you don't wear makeup? After she finished speaking, she seemed to remember something and looked at Lu Yingchuan sarcastically. Oh, hooking up with a wild man, you're so ugly without makeup. But no matter how much you put on, you're still so ugly. Wang Zijin lowered his eyes and ignored Wang Qingqing. However, Feng Xiaojia became angry and stood in front of Wang Zijin with an overflowing sense of justice. Why are you talking so harshly? What's so ugly about Aunt Wang? Why is the captain hooking up with a wild man again? You have no manners. Are you really Aunt Wang's sister? What kind of sister would scold her sister like that? Feng Xiaojia has learned about Wang Zijin's weird relatives from the team leader through the internal group of Team 33 these past 2 days. They are really weird. She couldn't stand it as an outsider. The two girls, who were not much different in age, were about to start a fight. Wang Zijin suddenly said calmly, Captain, let them all go back to the car to fight. The crows are coming, and there are mutated crows. Who are you trying to scare? You say there is, so there is? What are you showing off? You are ignorant. The army is patrolling and monitoring everywhere, how can there be so many mutant creatures? Wang Qingqing said sarcastically. Indeed, there are troops patrolling and monitoring everywhere, and once any abnormal objects are discovered, they will contact special teams to deal with them. Including in the air, there are also drones and patrol aircraft. But there are always unexpected things. The mutated tree in Minute City is an example, and birds are the most difficult to monitor comprehensively. Without any hesitation, Lu Yingchuan asked Feng Xiaojia and others to return to the car to fight, while he took out 2 golden revolvers and continued to move forward. The hostages must be rescued first. Wang Zijin raised his head and called him, "Captain, you also go back to the car. I have called the wasps nearby for help. They will attract the crow's attention and give Zhao Yang a chance to rescue it." Lu Yingchuan was shocked. "You can summon? Oh, those birds last time were summoned by you? You have a nosebleed again. You have a nosebleed whenever you use this summoning ability." Wang Zijin was trying hard to wipe the blood from his nose, but it wouldn't stop. His head was also dizzy. Did the nose bleed after using a large-scale summon? Her thin body shook, and a ring fell out of her pocket, landing on the ground with a crisp thump. Lu Yingchuan, who was walking quickly towards her to support her, suddenly froze. Chapter 10. Eat her. This is Chen Jin's ring. How come it's here with you? Lu Yingchuan looked at the ring in doubt, then looked at Wang Zijin, and asked directly, "Aunt Wang, did you steal Chen Jin's ring? Or did you pick it up?" Wang Zijin was supported by him, but she immediately bent down to pick up the ring. Hearing this, her fingers paused for a moment, then continued to pick it up softly. She was dizzy and tried several times to pick it up but failed. The swarm of wasps she summoned had already rushed towards the mutated crow on the roof of the car, stinging it and making it scream. Lu Yingchuan used the headset of the special communication channel to give orders to Zhao Yang. "Now, catch the child first, then." Following the order, Zhao Yang crawled out of the ground to pick up the baby that was vomited out by the crow. But at this moment, a flock of crows flew over, led by a few large mutated crows in the front, followed by a group of normal little crows behind. There was a huge black group of them, and wherever they passed, their big wings caused a whistling wind. Zhao Yang was blown away. If Zhao Yang got up immediately and went to pick up the baby, he could still save the baby, but Zhao Yang didn't dare to. Because among those mutated crows, one was even larger than the one on the roof, emitting a sharp and oppressive magnetic field, and it was actually sea level. Zhao Yang was so frightened that he quickly used his earth-related ability to burrow into the ground and escape. Just like when he was fighting the mutated tree in Minute City, if it weren't for his extremely strong ability to save his life, he would have died long ago. Zhao Yang ran away, and seeing that the baby was about to fall to the ground, Xiao Juzi ran over and held the baby. Fortunately, Xiao Juzi was fat, so she was able to walk while carrying a baby who was several months old. But she was still exhausted and out of breath, and she complained to Wang Zijin. "Master, Little Orange is dying of exhaustion. Little Orange is going to be crushed into an orange cake. Little Orange has become thin. Little Orange wants to eat the small yellow croaker fried by the master." Wang Zijin felt sorry for arranging Xiao Juzi to do such an overload of work, so he quickly agreed. Lu Yingchuan, who was standing next to him, had no idea about Wang Zijin's arrangements. He was horrified and sweating as he watched this series of events. When he saw the baby being rescued by Wang Zijin's orange cat, he remembered something and looked at Wang Zijin, whose face was covered in blood in an instant. Wang Zijin's nosebleed became more severe, but this time she did not faint. She even forced herself to let Xiao Juzi carry the baby to their side. Although their side is not very safe and guns are completely ineffective against sea-level mutants, the defensive effect is still very strong. Those mutated crows easily pecked at the surrounding cars, but they could not damage their team's special vehicles. Lu Yingchuan dragged Wang Zijin to hide behind the special car with an extremely ugly look on his face. He used their special internal communication phone to contact for rescue while stuffing Wang Zijin into the car. Wang Zijin's whole body was limp, and he could only be stuffed in. Unfortunately, he couldn't get in. Because the mutated crows had targeted the two of them who were outside the car, a large flock of them flew over and pecked at the back of Lu Yingchuan, who was standing farthest outside. "Captain!" Wang Zijin exclaimed, and quickly summoned the wasp that was still attacking the mutated crow in his mind, asking the wasp to come and rescue Lu Yingchuan. "There is no way. After the radiation pollution, the number of animals and plants has decreased significantly. They were burned and killed indiscriminately by humans, and devoured by their own kind after mutation. Now there is only this large hornet's nest around the road. But the wasps couldn't catch up, they were also being chased by the crows and were too busy to take care of themselves. Wang Zijin had no choice but to give up on getting in the car and fell heavily to the ground, leaving Lu Yingchuan free to save himself. Compared to her own life, Lu Yingchuan's life is more important. Only he can protect the people here, including her father. Lu Yingchuan was prepared to be seriously injured, but his pupils shrank when he saw this, and he had to turn around and madly shoot at the mutant with 2 guns. His accuracy was very high, and he almost never missed a shot. However, the improved bullets in his gun, although able to shoot C-class mutants, could not kill them. It was okay to make them feel pain, so they all gave up pecking him and changed their targets. Wow! This smells so good. Such a nice smelling blood. Eat her. Eat her. Gar. The sea-level mutated crow stared at Wang Zijin with its red eyes. Wang Zijin could even hear the sound of it swallowing saliva. Wang Zijin struggled to move his soft and heavy body, trying to get under the car, and asked for help with a trembling voice, "Captain." Her voice was very weak and Lu Yingchuan didn't hear it at all because he was firing his gun and talking loudly to the person in the headset. 2C class. The situation is serious. We didn't make it in time last time, so we won't be able to make it this time either, right? If it weren't for Team 1, I would have been fucking dead long ago. Stop talking nonsense and hurry up. If I die, and your precious translator will die soon too. Translator Wang Zijin. Yes, she was dying. The C-class mutated crow rushed straight towards her, with 2 D-class ones beside it, which were the cannon fodder to block Lu Yingchuan's bullets. Taking advantage of this gap, the sea-level crow rushed to Wang Zijin's head, and its pointed big mouth opened loudly, which was bigger than her entire body. Wang Zijin smelled its strong bloody breath, blood dripping, and the thorns on its tongue were still covered with human flesh and hair. Oh! Wang Zijin couldn't help but vomit. Even if she was about to be eaten, she would vomit. Her internal organs were filled with cold, sour water. She felt fear, nausea, and despair. She seemed to hear Lu Yingchuan's voice, roaring something, but her mind was dizzy and confused, she couldn't hear clearly, and her vision was even more blurred. She had been holding on for so long and finally reached her limit. But she didn't want to die. She had finally gotten over her love-brain addiction and found herself again. Her life had just begun. And her father's illness has not been cured yet, and he is still cuckolded. She roared hoarsely, and used all her strength to punch the sea-level crow's mouth, as if she wanted to die together with it. Even so, she knew that her efforts were useless, just like an egg hitting a stone. Head exploded. There was blood and hot brains on her fist, and the crow's head, which had its mouth wide open as if to eat her, exploded the moment her fist made contact. Wang Zijin stared at his hand blankly. The palm of his hand was extremely hot, as if something was drilling into it, but he couldn't see anything. Did she beat him to death? She was confused, but not for long, because the next second, she heard the sound of Feng Xiaojia and others running out of the car frantically, and they were all shouting in pain. Captain! Captain, why did you use your life-shortening ability again? You reduce your lifespan by 10 years every time you use it. How many decades do you have? Shorten life? Wang Zijin turned his limp head dully and looked at Lu Yingchuan, who was supported by the teammates nearby. He found that Lu Yingchuan's messy, slightly long black hair had turned completely white. Lu Yingchuan's face was also extremely pale, but his dark brown eyes were bright. He waved his hands and said with a smile, "I'm fine. Doctor, please see Aunt Wang first. She has a lot of nosebleeds. She is already old. If she continues to bleed like this, I'm afraid she will die before me. Our team's precious translator has finally been saved. It's worth it. Worth it." Chapter 11. You continue to hold hands. Lu Yingchuan fainted before Wang Zijin. His ability was too strong, and the price he paid was too high. He uses his own lifespan to transform into a super powerful explosive bullet that can kill a Class B mutant with one shot. The strongest mutant that has appeared so far is Class B, and it died from Lu Yingchuan's supernatural bullet. That was the early days of the planet's radiation, and the special team had not yet been established. The fight against the mutants mostly relied on the lives of the military. Lu Yingchuan was originally a lieutenant in the army. In order to protect his subordinates, he actually activated his special ability in a desperate situation. At that time, Liu Yingchuan became a god with one shot. He killed Class B, saved his subordinates, saved the country, and saved the entire planet. He is the savior. The savior's reputation spread far and wide, and he attracted a lot of attention. Liu Yingchuan gathered people with special abilities from all over the place and personally created a special team to fight against mutants, and became the captain of Team 1. The current captain of Team 1, Chen Jin, was recruited by him. But because of his special ability, he was strictly prohibited by the country from using it privately. But now, he used it to save Wang Zijin. After treatment, Wang Zijin's dizziness improved a lot. Listening to Feng Xiaojie talking about this with a sigh, I felt shocked and ashamed. They said that she was a valuable translator and it was worth protecting her, but in fact, the most useful person was Liu Yingchuan. If Liu Yingchuan died because of her, she would never be able to atone for her sin even if she died 800 times. Feng Xiaojie was wiping her hands with warm water, and asked in confusion, "Auntie Wang, why can't you wipe your palms clean? Is this black a birthmark?" The palm of Wang Zijin's hand was still hot, but the temperature was not as strong as before, and the feeling of a foreign object drilling into it was gone. She didn't know what it was, but it wasn't a birthmark, it was something in Raven's brain that she had shattered. She clearly felt that she had broken something fragile, and then her palms became hot and the crow's head exploded. That's why she had the illusion before, thinking that she was the one who smashed the crow's head. The accompanying doctor examined her and didn't find anything wrong. She didn't have any other discomfort, so he didn't pay any more attention to it. She is very worried about Liu Yingchuan now, even though Feng Xiaojie said that the captain will be fine after a good sleep, and nothing will change except the loss of 10 years of life. Finally, Feng Xiaojie said, Team 1 Captain Chen is here, but is still in the captain's car. If you want to visit the captain, you have to wait. Wang Zijin was stunned for a moment, then suddenly remembered something and touched his empty pockets. Feng Xiaojie continued, Captain Chen is so nice. He's a really good man. He's not as cold and heartless as they say. He's really nice. He's handsome. He came to rescue us twice in a row. Aunt Wang. She suddenly became shy and asked in a low voice, Auntie Wang, do you think Captain Chen likes me? I am the only girl in our team. No, I am the only young girl. Auntie Wang, do you think so? Wang Zijin had already gotten up and was putting on her shoes. After hearing this, she thought about it carefully and said, maybe. Sorry, I don't know. She herself had suffered a huge setback in love and married a husband who made her regret her decision. Now, how could she be qualified to give love advice to others? Although she thinks Feng Xiaojie is simple, cute and worthy of love. And Chen Jin is not Xiao Jinxiong. She was not an expert in love, so she got out of the car alone to look for the lost ring, but the car had already driven a long distance away. She tried to contact the surrounding animals and plants, asking them if they could help look for the ring. But after asking for a long time, no useful information was obtained. However, Chen Jin heard the voice and walked over. You're looking for it. Chen Jin tossed an ancient dark silver ring with his slender fingers, and looked at Wang Zijin with cold eyes. Is it too late to remember it now? When Wang Zijin saw the ring, he was surprised and ashamed. She indeed forgot to pick it up at that time. Who would remember to pick up things on the ground at a life and death situation? Moreover, her head was dizzy and she could not hear things clearly. She was still in a daze when Feng Xiaojie and her teammates carried her into the car. She wanted to explain, but Chen Jin didn't need her explanation and threw the ring to her again. Keep it well. If you lose it again, I will kill you, he said coldly. Wang Zijin had a lot of question marks in his head, thinking that this might just be a joke, but Chen Jin didn't seem like the kind of person who would joke, and he didn't laugh at all. On the contrary, his pair of black eyes were sharp and cold. When he looked at her, it was like a sword hanging over her head, ready to kill her at any time. She shuddered and took a step back in fear, handing the ring back with both hands. I really don't need this. I've already joined Team 33. Chen Jin narrowed his narrow eyes behind the mask. Are you sure? Wang Zijin was of course sure. She nodded rapidly and handed the ring forward again. Captain Chen, I'll give it back to you. Captain Chen? Chen Jin's eyes became narrower, but the sharp and cold murderous aura seemed to fade a little in the shadows covered by his long eyelashes. He didn't take it. He still held his sword in both hands and said, I told you to keep it. Also, stretch out your right hand. Wang Zijin didn't understand what was going on, but was a little afraid of him, so she immediately and obediently stretched out her right hand, revealing the black spot on her palm. Chen Jin stared at that place and asked, "What is this?" Wang Zijin had no idea what it was, nor did she know why Chen Jin asked her this question, but she still told her the general situation frankly. Chen Jin didn't say anything. He lowered his eyes, stretched out a finger and touched the black mass. The cool touch, like the tickling of goose feathers, made Wang Zijin shiver uncomfortably. Chen Jin's fingers stiffened for a moment, he frowned and withdrew his hand. The murderous intent in his eyes seemed to condense again in an instant, and he stared at Wang Zijin coldly and sharply. Wang Zijin looked puzzled, and suddenly saw Feng Xiaojia, who was about to come out of the car, looking at them with her mouth wide open in surprise. Feng Xiaojia covered her eyes with her hands and shook her head like a rattle. "I didn't see anything." "Keep holding hands." "I didn't see anything." She turned around and ran away, leaving Wang Zijin even more confused. "What hand are you holding?" Did Feng Xiaojia misunderstand something? She is an old lady, what could she misunderstand? Chen Jin had no expression, and didn't even glance at Feng Xiaojia. He said to Wang Zijin, "I'll go tell Lu Yingchuan, you come with me to Team 1. Wang Zijin had a headache. Why was Chen Jin still thinking about this? She knew that Team 1 was better and stronger, and it would be an honor for her to be able to join Team 1, but her abilities were really not up to par, and she had already agreed to join Team 33. What's more, Captain Lu just saved her life, which is 10 years of her life. How could she just walk away? "Captain Chen, I really don't want to go to Team 1. You have to go." Chen Jin interrupted her coldly, his dark eyes locked on her. "You must stay with me, otherwise in the future, you will." "Chen Jin, this is too immoral." Lu Yingchuan got out of his RV. His once completely white hair had turned black again, with only a few strands of white in it. He stroked his messy hair, leaned against the car door and yawned. "I told you to let Aunt Wang know what she wants. She said she doesn't want to go to your team anymore, but you still forced her to go. Isn't that immoral? Are you bullying an elderly person?" Elderly Wang Zijin. Chapter 12. Say you're willing to follow me. Chen Jin said expressionlessly, "Wang Zijin, tell me you are willing to go with me." Wang Zijin, "I? Auntie Wang, say you don't want to go with him." Lu Yingchuan answered for Wang Zijin before he could, looking at Chen Jin provocatively. "Auntie Wang, you just like our Team 33. Team 1 can be as strong as they want, but it has nothing to do with Auntie Wang from the retirement team." Wang Zijin. She really wasn't here to live in her old age. It was true that she had her own purpose, but it was also true that she wanted to do her part to protect her homeland. The best that can be done. But the two men didn't give her a chance to confess. After a killing look, Lu Yingchuan laughed. "Jin, don't you have the ability to communicate with animals and plants? Even if we need someone else, Team 2 still has one." Chen Jin looked at him coldly. "I have my reasons for accepting Wang Zijin. But you, she followed your 33rd team and her life was on the line twice. How many times can you use your special ability to save her?" Lu Yingchuan said, "This is an accident. Accidents don't happen all the time. If you let Aunt Wang, an elderly person, run around with your team, isn't she in greater danger? You can't protect her all the time, right?" He patted Chen Jin's shoulder, and his smiling tone turned serious. Jin, Aunt Wang is a good person. If you stay in the nursing home, at least you can enjoy your old age more comfortably." Wang Zijin. "Okay, although the truth is there, Captain Lu is doing this for her own good. Besides, Captain Lu just saved her life, 10 years of her life." Wang Zijin was particularly grateful. He looked at Lu Yingchuan with red eyes, and it seemed that there was only Lu Yingchuan in his eyes. Chen Jin lifted his thin eyelids, withdrew his gaze from Wang Zijin, turned around and left in silence. He just said coldly, "Whatever you want." Seeing that he was leaving immediately, Lu Yingchuan waved enthusiastically. "Have lunch before you leave. We have a new chef, Aunt Wang. Aunt Wang's dishes are so delicious. I promise I won't make you vomit again." He didn't call out to Chen Jin, but turned to look at Wang Zijin with burning eyes. "Auntie Wang, what are we having for lunch? I loved the spicy pig's trotters you made last time. Can you make it again?" Wang Zijin nodded vigorously. "Yes. Captain, just order whatever you want to eat, I will make it." Now, she was actually grateful for her 20 years of life as a housewife. Xiao Zhenxiong didn't let her go out to do anything, so she stayed at home idle and learned cooking to perfection. Finally, she had a compensation plan to repay the captain. On the rest of the journey, they encountered no more mutants and reached the central city smoothly, just in time for the next morning. Wang Zijin had to send Wang Jianfeng to the central hospital of the nature reserve first. After getting off the car, she went to support Wang Jianfeng. This was the first time she had seen them in the past few days. Stepmother Zhu Moli was sharp-eyed and noticed the change on Wang Zijin's face at once. She asked in shock, "Zijin, you put on makeup too? Didn't you say that Zhenxiong didn't like you wearing makeup, so you never wore makeup?" As expected of mother and daughter, their lines were almost the same, and Wang Zijin didn't want to pay any attention to them at all. Wang Qingqing also came over and said, she just wanted to hook up with that captain. Wang Zijin has already fallen in love with someone else. Mommy, you don't know, she often treats her wild man with special care, even more attentively than she treats Xiao Zhenxiong. What a shameless ugly bastard. Wang Zijin thought to herself, how could she be as attentive as she was when she served Xiao Zhenxiong? She wanted to serve Xiao Zhenxiong, but was driven away by Xiao Zhenxiong holding his lover. But she didn't want to explain, nor did she explain that the changes on her face were actually due to changes inside her body. Her sticky and turbid veins were actually becoming clearer little by little, and the change was particularly drastic after she killed the mutated crow. Starting from her burning palm, it expanded little by little, and became clear little by little. Her palms are no longer hot or black, and most of the pain from her physical illnesses is gone. Her skin is also becoming tenderer and whiter, little by little, as if she had turned on a beauty filter. In other words, it's like the effect of Zhu Moli wearing exquisite nude makeup, or even more delicate than Zhu Moli with makeup. She saw these changes when Feng Xiaojie showed her in the mirror. She was shocked at the time, and she explained it to Feng Xiaojie and also saw a doctor. The doctor said this was probably the effect of her superpowers, and her new powers would make her younger and healthier. Feng Xiaojie was so envious of this special ability. Now, Feng Xiaojie took Wang Zijin's arm and stuck out her tongue at the weird mother and daughter who looked sour. I don't know who is the ugliest one. Go look in the mirror, auntie and sister. You can't even compare to Aunt Wang by a finger. Just wait and see. Who are you calling big sister? How dare you call me big sister? Wang Qingqing was furious and was about to tear Feng Xiaojie apart. But Feng Xiaojie was a user with fire abilities, and a ball of fire scared Wang Qingqing so much that she screamed and hid behind Zhao Yang, whimpering and begging for protection. Zhu Moli also hid in Wang Jianfeng's arms, crying, Jianfeng, quickly ask Zijin to stop, ask Zijin not to let her teammates hurt Qingqing. Qingqing is her sister, she can't be so cruel. Wang Jianfeng scolded Wang Zijin again. Wang Zijin took the lead and helped him walk inside. Go in first. I have to go to work in the team later to earn medical qualifications for you, Dad. Wang Jianfeng. Zijin, you have to be careful and stay safe. Daddy is old now, and you don't need to risk your life for him. You are also my precious daughter. You were so smart and well behaved when you were a child. Hey. Wang Zijin was also very sad. No matter how much her father favored her stepmother and sister, he was still the best to her. After seeing Wang Jianfeng off, Wang Zijin went to the office of Team 33, and Wang Qingqing also went there. Wang Qingqing was brought by Zhao Yang, and in the end she had to start from logistics. Wang Qingqing's face looked extremely ugly. Wang Zijin was accompanied by Feng Xiaojie. They went from the 5th floor below the garage to the 1st floor by elevator. The 1st floor was the office area of Team 33. The arrangement of the special teams is in reverse. The higher the team number, the lower the floor. Team 1 is on the 34th floor. Each team consists of about 10 people. Team 33 has suffered heavy casualties, and 5 new teammates have joined from the substitute team on the negative 1st floor. They were all waiting in Lu Yingchuan's office. When they saw Wang Qingqing and Wang Zijin come in, they all looked at them. Wang Qingqing was young and beautiful, and she habitually put Wang Zijin above her and walked in front of him, like a proud princess with a nanny. Among the new team members, a yellow-haired guy immediately ran over attentively, and under Wang Qingqing's contemptuous and proud gaze, he ran behind her. Auntie Wang, hello, you are the Auntie Wang that Xiaojie mentioned, right? A rare person with the ability to communicate with animals and plants. Please take good care of us in the future, Auntie Wang, our safety depends on Auntie Wang. The yellow-haired man flattered her smoothly, and the other new teammates followed suit. There was also a man in a white shirt who looked very gentle and handsome with glasses, who said, "Auntie Wang is younger than I thought, and she is very beautiful." "Yes, yes, yes." The team members immediately echoed, flattering her, "Auntie Wang has an extraordinary temperament. She must have been a top beauty when she was young. Auntie Wang's husband must be very outstanding too, right?" Chapter 13: The handsome guy who struck her heart. Wang Zijin was completely shocked. She was flattered, at a loss, and incoherent. I'm not, thank you everyone, my husband, I'm divorced, Wang Zijin. Are you afraid that others don't know that you are divorced? Are you afraid that these men won't pursue you? Wang Qingqing glared at Wang Zijin angrily. Her beautiful face, which was carefully made up, was distorted with anger. She angrily said, "You blind people. How can Wang Zijin be considered beautiful? She is obviously ugly. She has given birth to 3 children. I am the beauty. Can't you see it?" The new teammates burst into laughter. Huang Mao said directly, "So what if you are beauty? Can beauty be eaten? What kind of society is this? This is the end of the world. The end of the world requires superpowers. What superpowers do you have, beautiful girl?" Wang Qingqing, who has no special abilities. Why doesn't she have any superpowers? The man in the white shirt adjusted his glasses and laughed softly. Didn't Xiaojia say that? She has Zhao Yong completely bewitched. This can also be considered a superpower. Clearly, those were words of praise, and the man in the white shirt didn't sound sarcastic at all, he even sounded quite gentle. But when Wang Qingqing heard this, she felt it was a mockery of her. It was so ugly that she got so angry that her face turned black. She couldn't stand it anymore, so she covered her face and ran out of the office crying, bumping into Wang Zijin hard. Wang Zijin was very frail and his shoulder was hurt by the collision. He staggered and fell backwards. Suddenly, a strong hand supported his back. Wang Zijin turned around in surprise and saw Chen Jin, who was wearing black clothes and a black mask, and seemed to have never changed. He was tall and looked at her with his eyes slightly lowered. When he saw her turning back, he quickly let go of her hand, walked straight past her and sat on the independent sofa at the top of the office. And behind Chen Jin, there was another person following. The man was tall and strong, wearing a formal black military uniform with golden accessories on his chest and shoulders, which was particularly gorgeous and dazzling. Wang Zijin felt that they looked familiar, but was not quite sure until his new teammates all stood up and saluted the 2 newcomers. "Hello, Captain Chen." "Hello, Captain Lu," they shouted in unison. Wang Zijin's guess was confirmed, but he still looked at the so-called Captain Lu with suspicion. This handsome face with a smooth white complexion and hair neatly combed back, is it really Lu Yingchuan? If it weren't for Lu Yingchuan's muscular physique, deep brown eyes, and handsome and sunny smile, she really wouldn't have dared to believe it. Not only her, Wang Qingqing was so shocked that she could fit a duck egg in her mouth. She was about to leave, but when she saw the 2 men come in, she couldn't move. Captain Chen was wearing a mask so she couldn't see what he looked like, but as soon as Captain Lu came in, she was blinded by the glare of golden light. The gorgeous military uniform and handsome looks make him even more handsome than the campus idol she had ever fallen in love with. But why is this handsome guy who captured her heart the poor, ugly loser she once scolded? Wang Qingqing was so angry that her lungs were about to explode. The more she was angry, the more she hated Wang Zijin. How could that ugly bastard Wang Zijin catch such a rich husband? So, she rushed to Lu Yingchuan before Wang Zijin, and flirted with him, lifting her hair and winking at him. Their voice was also coquettish, with an 800-degree pitch. "Captain Lu, I'm here to report. Where is my workstation? Can you take me there?" Wang Qingqing seemed to have completely forgotten her previous bad attitude towards Lu Yingchuan. Her shamelessness left Wang Zijin, who was watching, dumbfounded. No wonder Xiao Zhenxiong always disliked her in the past, saying that she was like a dead fish, ugly, stupid and boring, and asked her to learn from Wang Qingqing and her daughter. Now, she finally understood that this was what Xiao Zhenxiong wanted her to learn. But unfortunately, she couldn't learn it, didn't want to learn it, and now she doesn't need to learn it anymore. Everyone in the office was watching the show, wondering whether Lu Yingchuan could resist the beauty's coquettish behavior, including Wang Zijin, who was watching with curiosity. Lu Yingchuan stared at Wang Qingqing, who was almost leaning on his arms, and with a tsk sound, he shouted directly outside, "Zhao Yang! Take your family away. Don't you know that this is an important work area? Who told you to bring your family in?" Zhao Yong rushed over and saw this scene. He stared at Wang Qingqing, who was still leaning in Lu Yingchuan's arms and unwilling to get up. His eyes were so angry that they were about to spit fire. Okay, Captain, I'll take Wang Qingqing away now, he said viciously, grabbing Wang Qingqing and trying to take her away. Wang Qingqing was treated roughly and cried out in pain. She kicked Zhao Yong with her high heels. Let go. What nonsense are you talking about? Who are your family members? Let me go. The two people's voices faded away quickly. Everyone in the office had watched the show enough and watched closely, not daring to be the first to speak. Chen Jin, who was sitting lazily on the sofa with his long legs folded, tapped the black cloth sword with his cold white fingers and said coldly, "Hurry up and bring it here. I don't have time to watch the show here." Lu Yingchuan was speechless. I don't want to act in this drama either, so why blame me? I told you to send it to your office, but you came here on your own. I haven't even changed out of this cumbersome outfit, but you never wear it to meetings. Lu Yingchuan sighed and walked over. He opened the drawer and rummaged through a pile of messy documents. He took out a copy and handed it to Chen Jin, saying, "This is Aunt Wang's personal information that you wanted. Why don't you take a look at the others? Wang Zijin. Why look at her profile? No, why only look at her profile?" The other teammates were also confused, but Chen Jin didn't give an answer. He took the information and got up and left, saying only, "Everyone else is fine." Wang Zijin. After Chen Jin left, the other teammates looked at Wang Zijin in confusion. Wang Mao muttered, "Auntie Wang is fine. What could be wrong with Auntie Wang?" With a slap, Lu Yingchuan slapped him on the head. "What does this have to do with you? Wang Mao, take Aunt Wang to get familiar with the working environment, and leave the rest to Feng Xiaojia." Wang Mao rubbed his head with tears in his eyes. "Captain, my name is Li Fei, not Wang Mao." Lu Yingchuan said, "Oh," and waved his hand. "Go ahead, Wang Mao." Li Fei. Li Fei is a chatterbox with a sweet tongue. He takes Wang Zijin around the huge first floor of Team 33, as leisurely as if he were strolling in a back garden. "Auntie Wang, don't worry. You are Xiaojia's friend, which means you are Li Fei's friend. We young people get along well with each other. We all respect the old and love the young. If you are like Wang Qingqing, we will help you fight one by one." Wang Zijin thanked him gratefully. Feng Xiaojia came over and interrupted. "Li Fei, you're right. You're a loyal boy. I really watched you grow up." When Li Fei saw Feng Xiaojia, his eyes lit up. "Xiaojia. Didn't I watch you grow up? Of course, of course. Let's have dinner together later, it's my treat. Aunt Wang can come too." Wang Zijin felt that she was not suitable to be a light bulb and wanted to refuse, but she had to, because Lu Yingchuan spoke in the group. He said he would treat the team to dinner tonight and at Wang Zijin. "Auntie Wang, I'll leave the chef position to you. We'll all help you." Wang Zijin took the special mobile phone he had just received for the team, listened to their voice message in the group, and agreed without thinking. The next second, another voice message came into the group. "You do whatever he tells you to do. Do you like him? Chapter 14 She abused me." The group exploded. Although this is an independent group of Team 33, there are also a few outsiders in it, such as the management of the headquarters and the person who just sent a sudden voice message. The name displayed is Chen Jin. Feng Xiaojia screamed on the spot and said excitedly, "Captain Chen actually sent a voice message. This is his first voice message. Aunt Wang. Captain Chen definitely likes you. He's jealous." Wang Zijin was frightened by Feng Xiaojia's shocking words and quickly pulled her back. "Don't talk nonsense, I'm the same age as his mother. Don't say such things." Wang Zijin is impressed by Feng Xiaojia. Ever since that time when Feng Xiaojia misunderstood her and Chen Jin holding hands by the RV, she insisted that the person Chen Jin liked was Wang Zijin, not her. The reason is that Chen Jin is cold and ruthless to everyone. He is too lazy to say a word and even thinks the air outside is dirty. He has a serious misophobia and always wears a mask. But Chen Jin actually held Wang Zijin's hand. Although Wang Zijin explained again and again that they were not holding hands, Chen Jin just looked at the black spot on her hand, which made Feng Xiaojia quiet for 2 days. Now, when Feng Xiaojia saw this voice message, his passion for the couple rekindled, and he became obsessed with supporting them. Fortunately, Feng Xiaojia listened to her and didn't say these words outside. There were only 3 of them here. Of course, Li Fei was also frightened and shocked by Feng Xiaojia's shocking words. Impossible. Li Fei was still rational and analyzed. Captain Chen is so outstanding. There are many people in our team who like him. Oh, Aunt Wang, I'm not saying you're not good, but. He scratched his hair in confusion and said harshly, anyway, this is absolutely impossible. If it's possible, I'll poop upside down, okay. Oh, disgusting. Feng Xiaojie rolled his eyes, raised his head and chest, full of confidence, it's possible. The CPS I support have never been BE. Li Fei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Come on, you just read those romance novels, this is reality, sister. Just ask any guy if he would date Aunt Wang. What do you mean? If I were a man, I would like Aunt Wang. I would fall in love with Aunt Wang. Feng Xiaojie said angrily. The two of them were arguing so much that Wang Zijin sighed tiredly and showed them her phone. You are really the only one who thinks so, Xiaojie, please stop talking nonsense like this. Captain Chen is still young, and this will damage his reputation. She is old and used to being scolded. Compared with this misunderstanding, it is nothing. But Chen Jin is different. Besides, Chen Jin didn't like her at all. Chen Jin even said that he would kill her. Unfortunately, she couldn't explain this sentence. On the mobile page that Wang Zijin opened, although the 33-team group was in an uproar, no one thought the same as Feng Xiaojie. They were all shouting flattery like, the boss is around, worship the boss bless you, and so on. Another said, who is Captain Chen talking about? Who likes our Captain Lu? Are you talking about Aunt Wang? As a result, the whole screen was filled with the word, get lost, and it was Lu Yingchuan who had the hair. After reading the news, Feng Xiaojie was extremely discouraged and even doubted herself, did I really support the wrong CP? Her excitement wore off, and she realized that Wang Zijin looked pale and very tired. She hurriedly tugged at Wang Zijin's sleeve and whispered, I'm sorry, Aunt Wang, I didn't tell anyone. Xiao Fei is not an outsider. I just think you and Captain Chen are a good match. Although you are much older than Captain Chen, when I saw you two standing together that day, I thought you two were a good match. I was wrong, Aunt Wang. Wang Zijin was not angry with Feng Xiaojie, but felt ashamed for tarnishing Chen Jin's reputation and Lu Yingchuan's reputation. She comforted Feng Xiaojie for a few words, and Feng Xiaojie was revived. With sparkling eyes, she asked excitedly, but why is the captain angry? Could it be that the captain likes Captain Chen? Wow. I can also support this couple. They are so sweet. Wang Zijin, Li Fei. Although the work of Team 33 is not as busy as that of Team 1, it is also very tedious and the workload is heavy. In addition to the time spent on field missions, the day after the mission is completed, we will make a summary and hold a meeting in the office area. This is the only day they can sit in the office area, and this day is considered their holiday. But this time, Team 33 had a major reshuffle and the players were not too familiar with each other, so Lu Yingchuan organized such a dinner party. Wang Zijin planned to visit Wang Jianfeng first after get off work and then go to Lu Yingchuan, but unexpectedly, he saw Xiao Zhenxiong as soon as he arrived at the hospital. Xiao Zhenxiong was waiting outside Wang Jianfeng's ward, waiting for Wang Zijin. When he saw Wang Zijin coming, he went up to her, cursing. Wang Zijin. Are you determined to get a divorce? Let's get a divorce. Who cares about an ugly woman like you? Anyway, you don't want me, nor do you want your son and daughter. Xiao Lei deserves to die. He deserves to have such a cruel mother. Wang Zijin was about to ignore him and go straight into the ward, but she froze when she heard that, raised her eyes and looked at him. What did you say? What happened to Xiao Lei? Seeing that she still cared about Xiao Lei, Xiao Zhenxiong laughed, but his laugh was extremely mocking. What happened to Xiao Lei? Xiao Lei is going to die. It's because I led them to find you, the mother who eloped with a wild man. Our plane was attacked. Xiao Lei's legs were eaten by the mutant. What? Wang Zijin was stunned for a moment, his eyes trembling violently, but he pursed his pale lips and said coldly, it has nothing to do with me. Since she no longer wanted the two children, whatever happened to them had nothing to do with her. They were the ones who didn't want her first, and even wished she would die. If this kind of accident had happened to her, her two children would have applauded. Like the time she almost died from gas poisoning, she thought it was just her carelessness. But after she awakened the ability to communicate with animals and plants, she heard from Xiao Juzi that it was a conspiracy of the two siblings and that they were the ones who did it. Wang Zijin trembled with fear when she thought of her two devil children, but Xiao Zhenxiong thought she was just being stubborn. After all, Wang Zijin is a very soft-hearted woman who loves him and their children very much. Xiao Zhenxiong pinched her chin, smugly and maliciously mocking her. Wang Zijin, if you still recognize Lei Lei as your child, and still recognize me as your husband, then you should remarry me immediately. Return my company to me, return my money to me, and I will take you to see your half-dead son. What Xiao Zhenxiong wanted was nothing more than wealth and glory, which were all taken away by Wang Zijin after the divorce. Wang Zijin stared at him coldly and said word by word, I said, it has nothing to do with me. Xiao Zhenxiong immediately became furious and raised his hand to beat Wang Zijin as usual, but Wang Zijin had already pushed him away. Wang Zijin's physical condition has improved in the past few days, and he has become a little stronger. On the contrary, Xiao Zhenxiong was fat, the kind that was bloated and weak, and was pushed directly to the ground with his buttocks. Xiao Zhenxiong screamed in pain, but when he tried to get up he couldn't get up for a while, and he roared in anger. Wang Zijin! You are such a cruel woman. You didn't even care that your own child was dying. There is no mother like you in this world. Father-in-law. Mother-in-law. Please come and judge for your son-in-law. Wang Zijin hit me, she abused me. Ouch. Chapter 15, This Couple. Wang Zijin knew that Xiao Zhenxiong was making a fuss here just to please Wang Jianfeng. That's why she didn't want to pay attention to him and wanted to go directly into the ward, but Xiao Zhenxiong brought up the news that Xiao Lei had died in an accident. As a mother who carried Xiao Lei for 10 months and raised him, it was impossible for her not to be moved. But, it was only limited to being moved. The affection she had for her son and daughter had long since died out when they realized that they wanted to kill her with their own hands. If she hadn't been lucky that time, she would have been killed by her own children. Come to think of it, it's really sad and ridiculous. How much of a failure is a mother if even her own child wants to kill her? Wang Zijin walked past him indifferently, went to the door of the ward, and calmly looked at Wang Jianfeng, who was lying on the bed with a sullen face, coughing and scolding her. Zhu Moli had already fallen to the door, kneeling on the ground miserably, grabbing Wang Zijin's loose cotton trousers, crying and begging her heartbrokenly. Zijin, you can't be so heartless. Lei Lei is your biological son. How can you even give up your child just because of a conflict with Zhenxiong? Mom is begging you, please. Save Lei Lei. Remarry Zhenxiong. Only if you remarry will he let us go to see Lei Lei. Mom is begging you, Zijin, sob. Zhu Moli's words more clearly push Wang Zijin into the role of a vicious mother who abandons her husband and children. Those who heard the noise and came to watch the fun in the hospital started to blame Wang Zijin, and some even threw garbage at her. Zhu Moli took the opportunity to say, Zijin, apologize quickly and admit your mistake, otherwise not only will we not be able to see Lei Lei, but your father will also be kicked out of the hospital. Don't hurt Jianfeng, Zijin, he is your father. You can't be so cruel. Wang Jianfeng was so angry that his face turned pale, and he gasped for breath. Wang Zijin. You are so unfilial. Dad. Wang Zijin interrupted him lightly. Although the egg liquid on her head was still flowing, she still stared at him seriously without blinking. Dad, I know I have done a lot of wrong things, which has caused you to be disappointed in me. I am no longer your most beloved daughter. But Dad, don't you believe in your daughter's conscience at all? You don't want to believe that it was Xiao Zhenxiong who was forcing me, and it was Zhu Moli who was slandering me. She said these words very calmly, and waited calmly for her father to give her an answer. She wanted to see whether she had been suppressed by Zhu Moli to the point where there was no room for improvement in her father's heart, or whether she had become love-brained to the point where she could not be saved. This is very important for what she is going to say next. Wang Jianfeng had been scolding her so much that he was almost out of breath. After hearing what she said, he was stunned for a moment and couldn't utter a word for a while. Zhu Moli thought to herself that something was wrong and she gripped Wang Zijin's pants with more force. She looked up at Wang Zijin angrily, only to see that he was also looking at her coldly. Zhu Moli shuddered all over. She felt that Wang Zijin seemed to have changed, not only in appearance but also in heart, and the change was quite big. She felt like she was being seen through, so she gritted her teeth, turned around and rushed towards Wang Jianfeng again, crying even more miserably. Jianfeng, are you okay? Don't be angry, I'm here, Xiao Moli is here, Xiao Moli will always be with you, Xiao Moli will take good care of you for Zijin who doesn't listen to you. Zijin, please don't make your father angry, okay? Please. Your father is almost dead because of you, and you still want to blackmail him morally. This is too much. Zhu Moli's acting talent is really good and her eloquence is really invincible. This method of confusing right and wrong and disguising oneself as a weak little white rabbit is not something that ordinary people can do. Wang Zijin admits that she is no match for him. But Wang Zijin was not angry, and said calmly, I have evidence that you and my ex-husband Xiao Zhenxiong had an affair during marriage, and you coveted my family's wealth when you were in school, deliberately approached me, became my best friend, and let your boyfriend Xiao Zhenxiong seduce me. You conspired to rob my Wang family of everything. Wang Zijin did not reveal the truth to Wang Jianfeng after knowing all this that day. Firstly, he was worried that Wang Jianfeng's condition would worsen, and secondly, he had no substantial evidence. She said at the time that Wang Jianfeng might not believe her, and might even be bewitched by Zhu Moli's gossip and become so angry that he would not come here with her for treatment. It's different now, this is the best hospital in the country, and his father is being treated. Moreover, she had evidence, so she took out a document from her bag and handed it directly to Wang Jianfeng. In that document, there was a recording of a phone call between Zhu Moli and Xiao Zhenxiong. Zhu Moli told Xiao Zhenxiong about the plan they had when they were young and asked him to continue implementing it at any cost. There are also 2 paternity tests, one for Wang Qingqing and Wang Jianfeng, and the other for Wang Qingqing and Xiao Zhenxiong. She asked the accompanying doctor of Team 33 to test the infection while they were on the road. If Xiao Zhenxiong had not come to Wang's house to scold her that night, she would not have been able to obtain Xiao Zhenxiong's hair. It could be said that this was evidence that came right to her doorstep. Wang Zijin looked at her father's shocked and pale face and sighed in her heart. She knew best how painful it was to feel this way. But she couldn't let her father be kept in the dark his whole life just because she felt uncomfortable, and let the Avilders continue to run rampant and suck blood from her father. She asked the doctor to monitor her father's physical condition, and then looked at Zhu Moli and Xiao Zhenxiong who had been barking since she handed over the evidence. The 2 men scolded her until their faces turned red, but their faces were obviously panicked, and they even wanted to pull her and beat her. Wang Zijin looked at them indifferently without taking any action. She just called a group of birds in her heart to fly over and peck them, making them scream and roll around in the arms. Zhenxiong. Save me. Save me. Are my face. Zhenxiong, block it for me. Didn't you say you love me the most and will love me forever? Come here if it hurts so much. Come and block it. These damn birds. Are you crazy? Damn birds. Why are they only pecking at the 2 of us? The 2 men had no time to act when the disaster was imminent. Listening to their conversation, the onlookers were all confused by the reversal. They were ashamed of their previous insults to Wang Zijin, so they insulted the cheating couple in a disguised way and threw garbage at them. Even the birds can't stand it anymore. Peck them. Peck this couple to death. But Wang Zijin didn't want the birds to peck them to death. She was a law-abiding citizen and she would not kill anyone. She was just acting in self-defense, letting the birds help her avoid the risk of getting beaten and preventing them from getting up and hitting her again. So, she quickly let the birds go. The 2 adulterers, whose bodies and faces were covered with blood from being pecked, were wrestling in an ugly manner, and were trying to strangle each other. It's all your fault. It's all your bad idea. Now I have lost my wealth and am about to be pecked to death by birds. This was what Xiao Zhenxiong shouted. Zhu Moli also yelled, You are useless. You are poor bastard with no future. If I don't suggest doing this, when can we become rich? It's obvious that Wang Zijin is just a naive love-brained girl. You can't even control her and let her escape from our control. You are waste. Chapter 16. Are you caring about me? The 2 men thought they were dead, so they fought each other particularly fiercely at the last moment. The people present were listening to the opera with great excitement, and they hit them even harder, forcing the 2 of them to flee in panic. Wang Zijin then looked at Wang Jianfeng, who was so angry that he almost fainted, and said guiltily, I'm sorry, Dad, I was blind and made the wrong friend. She is a love-brained person. I was in love before marriage, or rather, I have been in love since childhood. How should I put it? She just really wants to fall in love, and she is the type who will easily fall in love with whoever treats her well. It was because Zhu Moli discovered her entry point that she approached her and introduced her boyfriend Xiao Zhenxiong to her, making Wang Zijin fall in love with Xiao Zhenxiong. Wang Zijin was a love-sick person to begin with, so she couldn't stand the deliberate seduction, not to mention that Xiao Zhenxiong was tall, handsome and pretended to be a warm man at that time. She was so obsessed that she lost herself and did whatever he told her to do. She even wanted to steal the household registration booklet and get the marriage certificate secretly. Wang Jianfeng, who had always opposed her being with Xiao Zhenxiong, became furious, locked her up, and gave Xiao Zhenxiong a severe lesson. Xiao Zhenxiong's seduction plan failed, so Zhu Moli did it herself. Zhu Moli took the opportunity to visit Wang Zijin and said that it was her birthday and she wanted to celebrate with Wang Zijin, and got Wang Jianfeng drunk. That's why when Wang Jianfeng woke up the next day, he was holding the naked Zhu Moli, and Zhu Moli was in tears and threatened to commit suicide, so Wang Jianfeng was forced to get married again. Wang Zijin is now slowly recalling what happened and is able to piece together all the details. In the past 20 years, all she had in her mind was Xiao Zhenxiong. Everything else could be ignored, and nothing was more important than Xiao Zhenxiong. She is really very love-brained and very stupid. But, it's also very weird. Is there any normal person who would be as abnormal as her in love? Now that she has come to her senses, everything is normal? She couldn't tell what was wrong, but she felt like everything was wrong with her. It was so weird. Wang Jianfeng did not blame Wang Zijin, but he was really hurt in his heart, and he also felt guilty for bullying Zhu Moli, whom he protected. He said, "I am not a competent father. I promised your mother that I would take good care of you, but in the end, Dad believed Zhu Moli and treated you badly. It's Dad's fault." Wang Jianfeng burst into tears. He seemed to have suddenly become older at that moment. If the doctor had not been examining him next to him, he would have probably not survived. After a busy period, by the time Wang Jianfeng was out of danger and fell asleep, it was already dark outside. Wang Zijin hired several caregivers to take care of her father before she closed the door and left. Only then did she remember that she had to go to the captain's house to cook. Wang Zijin was extremely embarrassed and quickly took out his cell phone to check the group messages, which included a lot of messages and several missed calls. The captain beat him, Feng Xiaojie beat him, and Su Yangbei? Su Yangbei, she had some impression of this name, it seemed like. "Auntie Wang, why didn't you answer my call?" Someone called her from behind and patted her shoulder gently. When Wang Zijin turned around, she saw a thin young man in a white shirt and black trousers, with a pair of gold-rimmed glasses on his fair and handsome face. He appears to be very gentle and bookish, and his gentle appearance easily makes people feel close to him. But when Wang Zijin saw him, she inexplicably thought of Xiao Zhenxiong when he was pursuing her. He was also gentle as a warm breeze, which made her fall in love with him quickly. So, she was bitten by a snake once and became afraid of ropes for 10 years, and subconsciously took 2 steps back. But it doesn't feel inappropriate, because she is not a young girl anymore, she is an old aunt. So, she smiled awkwardly and asked, "Su Yangbei, is that you?" "Hello, I wasn't paying attention to my phone just now, sorry, are you here to visit the patient as well?" Su Yangbei raised his eyebrows, and the corners of his lips curled up slightly. "I'm not visiting a sick person. I'm an orphan. I was sick myself. I happened to see the lively scene over there at Aunt Wang's place, so I came over to say hello." His smile deepened, and he said meaningfully, "I originally called you, Aunt Wang, to help you, but Aunt Wang doesn't need it. Aunt Wang's supernatural power is really amazing." Wang Zijin. She had been flattered by Li Fei all day, and now she felt a little embarrassed when being praised again. "That's all I can do. I can't compare to you guys. You have ice ability, right?" She had already recalled Li Fei's introduction to her, mentioning the names and abilities of each teammate, including, of course, Su Yangbei in front of her. They were transferred up from the substitute team, but the substitute team does not refer to those with very poor abilities. Rather, they are the substitutes if there is a vacancy in Team 1 to Team 33. Ice-related abilities like Su Yangbei's are very powerful. Su Yangbei has been a substitute for many teams, but he could not stay in each team for long. Because even though he had awakened his ice ability, he wasn't very good at fighting. Not only did he often fail, he also accidentally hurt his teammates many times. Therefore, no team wanted him later, until Team 33 was short of people on a large scale, and he took the initiative to apply to be transferred to Team 33. He was very frank and told the reason at that time. Team 33 was the simplest and most idle retirement team and was the most suitable for him. When Li Fei talked about Su Yanbei's words, he was so happy that he said he thought so too. Then, Feng Xiaojie punched and kicked him, and said, "If Team 33 really just wanted to eat and wait for death, would so many people in their team have died?" Feng Xiaojie was crying at that time. Wang Zijin was also moved when she thought about it. She felt that Su Yanbei's words were indeed inappropriate. So, she said to Su Yangbei seriously, Team 33's work is also quite dangerous. If we want to survive, we must work hard to make ourselves stronger, at least not hold them back. This is what I think. What about you, Su Yangbei? Su Yangbei had already followed her to the hospital gate. Hearing this, he glanced at Wang Zijin in surprise. Auntie Wang, are you concerned about me? No one has ever cared about my life or death. I'm really touched. You're so good to me, Auntie Wang. Wang Zijin. Did he misunderstand something? Wang Zijin explained awkwardly, I am just giving you advice as a colleague. Of course, I am also an elder, so it is my duty to care about you juniors. I am a newcomer at work, so I will help you in life if I can. What kind of life? Su Yangbei tilted his head and blinked his peach blossom eyes with bright red teardrop moles. Wang Zijin was a little confused and had no intention of doing anything wrong, but Su Yanbei's action was so provocative that the girls around them screamed. Su Yangbei is already very handsome, and he always smiles and speaks gently, which adds a layer of beauty filter to him. The kind that is more eye-catching and more likable. Passers-by were looking at him sideways, especially the young girls, who were obviously shy, and the brave ones were running towards him. Chapter 17, Dating Aunt Wang. Su Yangbei seemed frightened. He leaned closer to Wang Zijin and looked at him for help. Auntie Wang, can you help me? Can you help me block the peach blossoms? He looked pitiful. Wang Zijin suddenly thought of Zhu Moli. She had been accustomed to Zhu Moli's dramatic tricks over the years, so she felt awkward no matter how she looked at Su Yangbei now. But as a colleague, I will help if I can, and it's not a difficult thing to do. So, Wang Zijin walked out with his head held high and chest puffed out, standing in front like a protective child. Don't be afraid, son. Mom will tell them that you already have a wife, and your daughter-in-law is waiting for us to come back home. Wang Zijin said loudly. The girls who came close. Su Yangbei. The girls dispersed, and Wang Zijin's nervous nerves finally relaxed. She covered her heart that was beating wildly because of lying. She is not good at lying at all, although this is just to help others, it can be considered a white lie. She took a deep breath and comforted Su Yangbei behind her. It's okay, they are gone. Su Yangbei. Su Yangbei was speechless at Wang Zijin's unique help. He looked at Wang Zijin's back as he got into the car first, and waved to him to catch up. You know what, this really looks like his mother. Mom? He. It was already past 8 o'clock in the evening when Wang Zijin and Su Yangbei arrived at Lu Yingchuan's apartment. But they hadn't started eating yet, and a group of grown men and a girl named Feng Xiaojie were busy in Lu Yingchuan's kitchen. Since there are too many dishes to prepare, and none of them have much cooking experience, it would be difficult to prepare a big meal. That's why Lu Yingchuan had Wang Zijin in the group. They could only rely on Wang Zijin. If Wang Zijin stood them up, they would have to do it themselves to have enough food and clothing. Now that Wang Zijin has arrived, they feel like they have seen a savior and are about to cry. Auntie Wang, you're finally here. You're finally here. We all missed you so much. Li Fei howled the loudest and spoke the sweetest. Feng Xiaojie was not to be outdone. She ran over and hugged Wang Zijin. Auntie Wang, you're finally here. They bullied me, saying that I have to know how to cook because I'm a girl, and they forced me to do it. My hands were burned by the fire. Woo. Wang Zijin, don't you have fire-type abilities? Why are you so careless? Did you apply the medicine? Wang Zijin held Feng Xiaojie's fingers with concern and looked at them. Su Yangbei, who was standing behind her, saw this and laughed out loud. He said inexplicably, it's a bit difficult to grab. What? Wang Zijin didn't quite hear his soft and vague words. But Su Yangbei didn't say anything else, because Wang Zijin had been pulled away from him by Feng Xiaojie, and he whispered in Wang Zijin's ear. Auntie Wang, why are you with Su Yangbei? Don't be fooled by his appearance. He is well known for being a scumbag and a jerk. I can't even count the number of girlfriends he has had with my hands. Don't be fooled by him. Wang Zijin was shocked. Really? Then he asked me to help him block it. No, how could I be deceived? Wang Zijin was speechless. She was called an ugly woman all the time, so why would she be afraid of being cheated by others? Xiao Zhenxiong cheated her and took her property, but Su Yangbei wouldn't do that, right? The housing for their special team is allocated by the state. Each person has an apartment in this building, and the salary is also quite high. After all, their job is to defend the country, and it is a life-threatening job. Wang Zijin thought about it carefully, so even if she found out that Su Yangbei was a bit of a green tea person, as long as it didn't harm others or herself, she would still be happy to help as a colleague. Now that I think about it, it seems that he is the only one who is harmed. Feng Xiaojie said, "He's a liar. Aunt Wang, don't be fooled by him. He can't compare to our Captain Chen in any way. Captain Chen is much better than him." Wang Zijin. How come this was chosen? Wang Zijin's face was filled with embarrassment. Although Feng Xiaojie's voice was not loud, Su Yangbei was not far away. If she heard it, she would not be the only one who would be embarrassed. Wang Zijin quickly changed the subject. What other dishes have not been cooked yet? Let me see. Captain. That hairtail fish only needs to be fried, no need to deep fry it. Let me do it, let me do it. Wang Zijin rescued all of them, and methodically cooked dishes that a large group of them could not cook. Compared with the few pitch-black dishes they cooked, these dishes were simply divine. While eating the dishes, the teammates kept praising Wang Zijin for her good cooking skills. They said that Team 33 would have a good time in the future as they would rely on Aunt Wang for cooking and other things. Wang Zijin didn't mind helping them cook. It was much happier than cooking for Xiao Zhenxiong, and it seemed that this was the only way she could help Team 33. At this time, Su Yangbei suddenly said, "From now on, whoever marries Aunt Wang will be so happy." After he sighed, he turned his head and blinked at Wang Zijin. "Auntie Wang, look at me, do I have a chance?" Everyone knows that Wang Zijin is divorced, and everyone also knows that Wang Zijin is currently single. But Wang Zijin's age was there, so everyone thought Su Yangbei was just joking. Li Fei even followed suit. "Auntie Wang, look at me, do I have a chance?" "Auntie Wang, look at me too. My child wants to eat Auntie Wang's cooking every day in the future." More and more people started to make noises, so Lu Yingchuan stopped them by scolding them with a smile. "Shut up. You have no respect for yourselves. Our team finally has Aunt Wang who can cook. If she is scared away by you, you will suffer in the future." Everyone laughed and apologized to Wang Zijin, saying that it was just a joke. The corners of Wang Zijin's mouth twitched in embarrassment. She didn't like joking. On the contrary, she was so socially anxious that she wished she could find a hole in the ground to crawl into. Fortunately, the captain stopped the fuss, otherwise she would really get up and run away. But the silence lasted less than a second before Su Yangbei sighed and said, "Why are you guys making such a fuss? I'm serious, Aunt Wang, can you please consider me?" Everyone. This time it wasn't a joke. Everyone was silent. They looked at Su Yangbei as if he were a mutant, including Wang Zijin herself. Feng Xiaojie immediately slammed the table in anger and stood up. "I knew that you, Su Yangbei, coveted Aunt Wang. The way you look at Aunt Wang is like your mouth is watering when you see the food on the table. But don't even think about it. You change girlfriends as fast as you change clothes. Don't come to harm our Aunt Wang. You are not worthy of my Aunt Wang." Everyone. Ahem. Li Fei tugged at Feng Xiaojie's arm. "This is too fake. Whoever looks at Aunt Wang and Su Yangbei, it's Aunt Wang who is marrying up to Su Yangbei. But, there are really young people who are dating Aunt Wang." Li Fei thought of the poisonous oath he made about shitting upside down, and his face suddenly turned pale. He murmured, "It's fake, it must be fake. Su Yangbei just likes to play. This time he even played with Aunt Wang. What a heavy taste." Chapter 18. I'll protect you with my life. Su Yangbei, who has a strong taste for food, looked at Wang Zijin with deep affection, as if he had seen true love. He said seriously, "I fell in love with Aunt Wang at first sight. Perhaps, Aunt Wang was the goddess I always wanted in my previous life? I am trying to get close to Aunt Wang." Li Fei was slapped in the face in 1 second. Wang Zijin was still stiff, his face was red, but his heart was cold. He even felt so nauseous that he wanted to vomit. Su Yangbei's looks and pursuit style are indeed very tempting, especially to young girls who have little experience in love. Wang Zijin thought that if she had met Su Yangbei before meeting Xiao Zhenxiong, she would undoubtedly fall for him faster than she did with Xiao Zhenxiong. This is something that most girls have no way of resisting. But she is not an ordinary girl. She is an old aunt who will no longer fall in love, and she knows very well that it is impossible for Su Yangbei to fall in love with her at first sight. Exactly, just like the way Xiao Zhenxiong said he fell in love with her at first sight when he was pursuing her. But what does Su Yangbei want from her? Wang Zijin was just confused when a sharp and resentful sneer came from outside the door. Wang Zijin is amazing. You hooked up with the second and third wild men so quickly. Wang Zijin, do these wild men know that you abandoned your husband and children, and you didn't care about your dying son? The person who came in from the wide open door was Wang Qingqing, and the one who brought her in was Zhao Yang. Zhao Yang was originally invited, but Lu Yingchuan also made it clear that he could not bring family members, which meant that he could not bring Wang Qingqing. But after Wang Qingqing received a call from her mother, she became very upset and extremely angry. She insisted on following him to settle the score with Wang Zijin. She also said that she would marry him as long as he brought her here. This sweet treat was what Zhao Yang had always dreamed of, so he immediately agreed. Zhao Yang knew that everyone in the team was on Wang Zijin's side, and that he would be scolded this time, but he didn't expect that there were suitors of Wang Zijin in the team. It was so shocking that Zhao Yang, who was eavesdropping outside the door, was stunned. He seriously suspected that Su Yangbei had some strange special hobby. But Su Yangbei had openly pursued Wang Zijin, and if he brought Wang Qingqing into quarrel with Wang Zijin, it would undoubtedly cause him to fall out with Su Yangbei as well. Although Su Yangbei's supernatural powers are sometimes good and sometimes bad and don't seem to be very good, he has a very good relationship with people, especially women. Zhao Yang wanted to take Wang Qingqing away, but Wang Qingqing was eavesdropping from the corner and rushed in directly. Wang Qingqing's face, which was delicately made up, looked extremely ugly, and she stared at Wang Zijin with hatred. Wang Zijin, your son is almost dead. You are still here looking for a wild man. Do you still have a heart? You are just a cruel old witch. Daddy is already so ill. And you still want to frame mommy and me. While daddy is lying in bed and can't get up, drive mommy away. And don't let me see daddy. Why don't you allow me to do that? Why do you use your fake DNA report to frame me and my mom? I am daddy's daughter. My biological daughter. I am not the daughter of your fat, ugly pig-like husband. You are just jealous of me. Jealous that daddy dotes on me. You just want to drive mommy away, drive me away. You are just an ugly old witch. You asked me to see daddy. Why don't you let me see daddy? Wang Qingqing was like crazy. After cursing, she rushed over and grabbed Wang Zijin's hair, holding a fruit knife in her hand with premeditation. Wang Zijin was secretly shocked and was about to avoid it, but she saw a thin figure quickly blocking her way. With a sizzling sound, Wang Qingqing's fruit knife directly cut the face of the person in front of her, leaving a long blood stain, and the blood instantly blurred half of the face. Wang Zijin's heart trembled with fear. She never expected that Su Yangbei would come to block this for her. In fact, she had already completely dodged it, and was already using the same trick again in her mind, trying to summon something else to deal with Wang Qingqing. But Su Yangbei stood in front of him and suffered considerable injuries. A similar scene reappeared in Wang Zijin's mind. Xiao Zhenxiong once blocked a robber's knife for her in order to capture her faster. Wang Zijin has not yet found out whether the robber is a real robber or not, because she feels it is unnecessary. But Wang Qingqing was obviously not arranged by Su Yangbei. Wang Zijin felt even more confused. She really couldn't guess what Su Yangbei was trying to do. He was willing to sacrifice to this extent, as if he really fell in love with her at first sight. She stopped having wild thoughts and reached out to pull Su Yangbei, who was still blocking the front, behind her, so that he wouldn't stand there stupidly and get beaten. Obviously, he could resist, or he could avoid the knife. Auntie Wang, Su Yangbei said softly but firmly, with blood all over her face, don't be afraid. I will protect you. I will protect you with my life. Wang Zijin pursed his lips and said calmly, that's not necessary. If you don't deliberately go up to catch the knife, you're helping me. Auntie Wang, why do you miss me so much? Su Yangbei looked sad and pitiful. I am worried about you. Am I wrong? I just want to protect the woman I love. Am I wrong? Wang Zijin. Wang Zijin was speechless. She could no longer communicate normally with Su Yangbei. Su Yangbei's sweet words were even more intense than when Xiao Zhenxiong pursued her, and his acting skills were even more superb. Not to mention her, even Feng Xiaojia, who had always opposed Su Yangbei, couldn't help but hold her red little round face and screamed, wow 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 wow. Oh my god. I can't bear it anymore. Who can bear it? Aunt Wang, are you okay? Can you still bear it? Feng Xiaojie said spinelessly. Wang Zijin couldn't stand it anymore, not because she was bewitched by Su Yanbei's sweet words, but because she didn't like to owe anyone anything. No matter what the reason was, Su Yanbei blocked her like this, and she couldn't just ignore it. Seeing that Wang Qingqing had been controlled by her teammates, she took off her coat and pressed it on Su Yanbei's face, wanting to help him go to the hospital. Seeing this, Wang Qingqing cursed even more harshly. Wang Zijin, you are a love-brained person who will die without a man. A wild man is more important to you than your son's life and death, right? Your son is going to die soon. He won't survive tonight. You old witch, Xiao Lei is so unlucky to have a mother like you. Wang Qingqing has been making a fuss about this for a long time. Although the teammates all know that Wang Zijin's family is weird, if what Wang Qingqing said is true, then Wang Zijin is indeed vicious. Even a tiger doesn't eat its own cubs. Wang Zijin never explained anything, but Feng Xiaojie still stood on her side, even though she was not very clear about the matter in Wang Zijin's family. But she believed Wang Zijin and said that Wang Qingqing was talking nonsense. Lu Yingchuan also expressed his opinion. I have seen Aunt Wang's 2 children. They are morally corrupt and disrespectful to their elders. If I were them, I would not want such children. Moreover, Aunt Wang is a member of my 33rd team. I am responsible for any mistakes she makes. It is not your turn to make trouble here. Get out, Wang Mao. Li Fei rubbed his hands. Understood. Wang Qingqing, you blind people are protecting the old witch Wang Zijin. You are also accomplices. Wang Zijin, I have brought you the person you wanted. Chapter 19. It's better to have a dog than him. Wang Zijin was particularly surprised. When she was in the hospital, she asked the group of birds that were helping her to find a 14-year-old boy whose both legs were eaten by mutants. The birds' information network is the most extensive. If what Xiao Zhenxiong said is true, then they will definitely be able to find Xiao Lei who is nearby. The bird she sent out had not given her any feedback on the information, but now Chen Jin had arrived first. Chen Jin brought Xiao Lei along as well, and packed the things and brought them directly to her. Wang Zijin was extremely surprised. She knew that Chen Jin had the ability to communicate with animals and plants, and he would find out about her from the bird's mouth. But Chen Jin actually helped her? And came in person. Wasn't he out on a mission? Before Wang Zijin could thank him, he looked at Xiao Lei who fell to the ground surrounded by a hurricane. His 2 legs were indeed gone, and his empty trouser legs were covered in blood. It was obvious that he had not received any care and they were swollen and festered. He had almost fainted, but the impact on the ground was quite heavy and he woke up in pain. He opened his mouth and cried out weakly. It hurts so much, sister, Daddy hasn't come back yet. He suddenly stopped because he saw clearly the group of people in front of him and Wang Zijin in front of him. Ugly woman. He called out subconsciously, with a sickly look of pride and disgust on his face. Who needs you to come and see me? I don't have a mother like you who is ugly, old, and stupid. Dad insisted on having you come back and remarrying. My sister and I don't agree. It would be better if you died. Why don't you just die? Xiao Lei's vicious words shocked and ashamed those teammates who still had doubts about Wang Zijin. Li Fei immediately muttered, just as the captain said, if this was my child, I wouldn't want him. Oh. It's better to raise a dog than him. Yeah. Feng Xiaojie nodded vigorously and said sympathetically, Auntie Wang is so pitiful. How could such a good Auntie Wang have such a vicious son? It's so unscientific. What's good about Wang Zijin? If she were good, would her son want her dead? Are you all fools? Xiao Lei, keep scolding. Scold Wang Zijin to death. Wang Qingqing squeezed in from behind the crowd and said. Seeing Wang Qingqing, Xiao Lei's expression became very ugly. Go to hell too. Don't you hate my father and my sister? Don't you say that you find us dirty just by looking at us? Go to hell. Wang Qingqing, you're the one who's going to die. You didn't die even with a broken leg. How can you be so lucky? You're going to die. Wang Qingqing cursed and was about to go up and strangle Xiao Lei, but was stopped by her teammates who were shocked by what they saw. In Xiao Lei's current condition, he would die if he was beaten any further. Xiao Lei's face was extremely pale and he was dying. He almost didn't have the strength to speak, but he was still glaring at Wang Zijin with red eyes. It's all your fault. It's all your fault. If it weren't for you, my sister and I wouldn't be looked down upon, laughed at, and bullied by them. It's all your fault, cough cough. He felt uncomfortable and in pain, his face covered in cold sweat, but Wang Zijin looked at him calmly and indifferently, no longer showing the heartache she had shown before. Wang Zijin recalled that when Xiao Lei was 6 or 7 years old, he had a high fever in the middle of the night, and Xiao Zhenxiong was holding his lover in the next room and refused to get up. It was Wang Zijin who carried Xiao Lei to the hospital alone. There were many such things, but Xiao Lei seemed to remember none of them. He only knew that she had brought shame upon them and should die. She didn't want to be ignorant, but it was Xiao Zhenxiong who didn't allow her to go out, put on makeup, learn to drive, or attend parent-teacher meetings at school. They said she put on makeup to seduce others, that she wanted to sneak back to her parents' home after learning to drive, and they even forbade her to install a chat app. She just couldn't understand how her imprisoned lifestyle had brought shame to Xiao Shui and Xiao Lei. Was it so shameful that they wanted to kill him? So, no matter how harshly Xiao Lei cursed, she still pursed her trembling white lips and said, "I only have one question, how did I embarrass you to the point that you wanted to kill me with gas?" Xiao Lei was shocked. "How did you know?" I. Don't you know what shameful thing you did?" Wang Qingqing interrupted hastily, "You are so love-minded, the whole school knows it." "Xiaojia, don't let her speak, thank you," Wang Zijin said to Feng Xiaojia. Feng Xiaojia said, "Oh," and nudged Li Fei with her elbow. Li Fei immediately raised his hand, snapped his fingers, and said, "Shut up." As expected, Wang Qingqing closed her mouth, and no matter how hard she tried to open it, she wouldn't open it. Wang Qingqing was so scared that she felt like she had seen a ghost. Wang Qingqing still didn't understand Team 33, and she didn't know much about psychics either. She didn't know that Li Fei had a control-type psychic ability and could control a single opponent for 3 minutes. But it is only effective against humans whose abilities are inferior to his, or D-class mutants, which is why he was assigned to their Team 33. Wang Qingqing shut up, and Wang Zijin looked at Xiao Lei and said, "Go on." Xiao Lei. Xiao Lei was also scared as if he had seen a ghost, but he was more envious and looked at Li Fei as if he were a god. People with superpowers are superior to ordinary people, and it is said that his mother is also a superpower. He didn't see anything special about his mother. At most, she was very ugly, very stupid, and very annoying. But now that her mother stood together with a superpower like Li Fei, he was sure that her mother was indeed a superpower and was no longer useless. Upon closer inspection, her mother seemed to be better looking and her personality seemed to have changed. "In the past, I was always weak and vulnerable, a coward and incompetent who allowed myself to be beaten and scolded without complaint. Now, her mother's tone is still very gentle, but also very cold, and she still doesn't feel sorry for his legs." Xiao Lei was furious and hateful, his eyes were red. "You posted the photos of Dad cheating on you at the school gate. They all laughed at my sister and me. They bullied us, and my sister almost jumped off the building to commit suicide." Of course Wang Zijin had never done such a thing, but she was not very surprised by the answer because Xiao Zhenxiong had beaten her for this reason before. However, Xiao Zhenxiong did not say that the photos were posted at school, and after seeing that Wang Zijin was beaten badly, he did not admit it, so he dropped the matter the next day. It seems that Xiao Zhenxiong has found a real murderer. Wang Zijin glanced at Wang Qingqing who had kept silent, and said, "You don't know about Xiao Zhenxiong and your mother, so it's impossible for you to secretly take these photos. It was your mother who did it, right? She wants to take revenge on Xiao Zhenxiong's lover, and she also wants to make Xiao Shui, Xiao Lei, and Xiao Zhenxiong hate me. What a good trick." Wang Qingqing's pupils shrank and she kept shaking her head, but Wang Zijin played the video of Xiao Zhenxiong and Zhu Moli fighting in the hospital in front of Wang Qingqing. Xiao Zhenxiong and Zhu Moli said a lot of things that should and shouldn't be said, and their relationship was exposed nakedly. Wang Qingqing widened her eyes in disbelief. Her mother had clearly said that it was Wang Zijin who framed her. However, this video is ironclad evidence. Wang Zijin ignored her and looked at Xiao Lei. "I didn't do it. You can choose not to believe me, but I don't like to take the blame. Xiao Lei, from now on, I will sever my mother-son relationship with you and Xiao Shui. From now on, I will not care whether you are good or bad, alive or dead." Chapter 20, Falling in love with someone else so quickly. Wang Zijin has always been wondering when and what she did wrong to make Xiao Shui and Xiao Lei hate her so much. Now, the knot that had been bothering her has finally been untied. It was indeed because she was useless and incompetent and failed to protect her children. Then, the children, who were already disgusted by her incompetence, hated her even more and planned to kill her. Was it her fault or the children's? It didn't matter anymore. Now, she wasn't their mother anymore. But she was not the kind of person who would just watch someone in need die, so she applied for treatment at the hospital in her own name. Even if it was a stranger, she would help. However, she no longer asked whether the hospital could cure Xiao Lei's leg, and let Xiao Zhenxiong take responsibility for his own child. Xiao Lei was taken away by Li Fei. He was still in a daze, unable to recover from the realization that this was just a misunderstanding. Seeing that Wang Zijin didn't send him to the hospital and just left him to an outsider, he couldn't stand it anymore and shouted, "Ugly, aren't you going to send me to the hospital? I don't want to see my dad, don't ask him to come." Xiao Lei is already 14 years old and is no longer a child. How could he not see that Xiao Zhenxiong does not value him? In the past, he and Xiao Shui depended on Xiao Zhenxiong only because Xiao Zhenxiong had power and money, while their mother was useless. On the plane, Xiao Zhenxiong pushed him and Xiao Shui out to block the mutant. In order to protect Xiao Shui, his 2 legs were bitten off alive. He was in excruciating pain, but Xiao Zhenxiong refused to take him to the hospital. She even said excitedly, "That ugly woman Wang Zijin must be so heartbroken now. She will definitely agree to remarry. If she doesn't agree, I will make sure she never sees her son again." Xiao Zhenxiong left him and ran away, regardless of his crying and begging, or Xiao Shui's attempts to stop him, and he even beat Xiao Shui up. Xiao Lei was afraid of Xiao Zhenxiong and hated him. Now that Wang Zijin has explained the misunderstanding, Xiao Lei is even more reluctant to return to Xiao Zhenxiong. When being carried away by Li Fei, he anxiously called her Mom. Wang Zijin hasn't heard the word Mom for a long time. But she doesn't need it anymore. She is no longer his mother. Doing this far is already the most she can do. At this time, she remembered to thank Chen Jin, but when she woke to Chen Jin and hadn't opened her mouth, Su Yangbei, who was sitting on the chair pressing on his wound, suddenly cried out in pain. "Auntie Wang, it hurts so much. Is my face going to be disfigured? If I become ugly, will you still like me? Please don't dislike me, okay? Auntie Wang, okay." Wang Zijin was speechless for 2 seconds and was about to answer when Chen Jin spoke. "Wang Zijin, don't you like Lu Yingchuan? Why have you fallen in love with someone else so quickly?" His voice was low and cold, with a barely perceptible confusion. Lu Yingchuan was smoking and was choked by it and kept coughing. No, cough, Aunt Wang. I'm not Su Yangbei, I'm not that. Aunt Wang is already old, please don't ruin her reputation. Su Yangbei immediately retorted, "Auntie Wang is not old, I am sincere, I want to marry Auntie Wang." Everyone. Wang Zijin, I don't want to. I will never remarry in my life. Sorry, I'll ask Xiaojia to take you to the hospital. You won't be disfigured, don't worry. Wang Qingqing was a spoiled child. She couldn't even unscrew a bottle cap, and she couldn't even use a fruit knife. How could she have the strength to inflict such a deep wound? Su Yanbei's wound was not deep, and medical treatment is very advanced nowadays, so there will be no disfigurement at all. And just now a teammate wanted to clean Su Yanbei's wound, but Su Yangbei didn't let him and let the blood flow more and more. She noticed it all. Actor, the purpose is very clear. Su Yangbei was rejected simply and quickly. His blood-stained face became gloomy for a moment, and even his charming peach blossom eyes showed a hint of cruelty. But it was gone in a flash, and when he looked at Wang Zijin again, he had returned to his gentle and affectionate self. "Auntie Wang, I'm a little sad, but I don't blame you. Who made me like you? I won't give up, Auntie Wang." With his bloody face, he walked towards Wang Zijin step by step, but before he could get close, he was blocked by 2 men on the left and right. The 2 men were Chen Jin and Lu Yingchuan. Both of them were stunned for a moment, and looked at each other at the same time, both with confusion, but Su Yangbei in front of them laughed. "Captains, what are you doing? I just want to say good night to Aunt Wang. After all, I am her suitor. Who do you think you are? You can't stop me from pursuing my wife, right?" Su Yangbei reasoned with a smile. Before Chen Jin and Lu Yingchuan could say anything, Wang Zijin couldn't stand it anymore and waved her hands in panic. No, I'm leaving first. I can't stand it anymore. What does Su Yangbei want to do? Even when she was young, she had never encountered such a passionate entanglement and had no idea how to deal with it. She is simply a sticky candy that you can't get rid of, or I still don't know what she is for. The suite assigned to Wang Zijin was upstairs. She opened the door using facial recognition while sending a message to Chen Jin on her phone. I wanted to say thank you but was interrupted, so I could only say on the phone, Captain Chen, thank you for taking the trouble to come here in person. Thank you so much. Our ding message sound came from behind Wang Zijin. Wang Zijin turned around in surprise and saw Chen Jin, who was reading a message on his phone. He said without even looking up, "You're welcome. Team 1's mission is to find that mutant. It's on their way." Wang Zijin understood, but since they were already at the door, she politely invited him, "Would you like to come in and have some water? I haven't cleaned up yet, so it might be a little dirty." "No need." Chen Jin walked directly to the apartment next to hers, opened the door with his face scan, and said coldly, "I don't need water to drink." Wang Zijin. Neighbors. Wang Zijin was a little embarrassed. She thought that Chen Jin followed her up and perhaps had some intention. She slapped her forehead heavily. It was Su Yangbei who made her crazy. This was too much trouble. She was so love-brained. Back off. She came once when this house was allocated and put Little Orange inside. Now as soon as she entered, Little Orange jumped into her arms. Master, Master! You are finally back. I am a cat and I am so bored. Little Orange is hungry, Little Orange wants to eat fish, Little Orange wants you to hug me. Wang Zijin was extremely tired today, but she still gently picked up Little Orange and rubbed its furry face. The house is not messy and the furniture is complete. It just needs a little wipe. While she was working, she told Little Orange what happened today. Little Orange was so angry that he started meowing and cursing, scratching the sofa with his claws. Wang Zijin watched as the luxurious beige sofa that had just been unpacked instantly became a cat-scratching post. She rubbed the cat's head helplessly and speechlessly. You need to change your temper. I heard from Li Fei today that there are more and more mutants in this world. They are not only multiplying, but also may be affected by emotions, just like those mutant trees in Minute City. Wang Zijin talked a lot to Xiaojuzi. Perhaps she had been thinking about it for the day, and at night she seemed to dream that Xiaojuzi turned into a huge cat, staring at her with fangs bared and scarlet eyes drooling. Her neck was wet and she woke up suddenly, only to meet a pair of huge blood-red eyes. Chapter 21. Weren't you very brave just now? Little Orange. Wang Zijin was still in shock, and the creepy feeling jumped to his throat, and his voice was extremely hoarse. She was afraid of mutants, but what she was more afraid of was that Little Orange had turned into a mutant. Little Orange's entire body had expanded to an enormous size, almost as big as her 1.8-meter-long bed, and was still growing. It just squatted on the side of the bed in a crawling posture, staring at Wang Zijin with its big cat head drooling, saliva dripping from its fangs. Wang Zijin subconsciously pressed her wet neck, looked at Xiaojuzi with vigilance, fear and helplessness, and opened her dry lips tremblingly. Little Orange, I am your master, don't you recognize me? Wang Zijin asked hoarsely. She could clearly hear Little Orange's voice. Little Orange was saying, it smells so good, it makes me dizzy, why does it smell so good? I want to eat it, I want to eat it. Little Orange kept repeating this sentence, as if he had only one thought, which was to eat Wang Zijin. But Little Orange didn't move. He wanted to eat, but he didn't want to. No, he's the master. I can't eat the master. Woo, I can't control myself anymore. Woo, woo, woo. Little Orange, a big cat, cried very sadly, but tears and saliva came out at the same time, both were the same, it really couldn't control itself. Wang Zijin tried her best to comfort Little Orange and talk to it, but her mind was also racing, wondering what to do. The level of Xiaojuzi's mutation is not high. There is a mutation detection function dedicated to their team on the mobile phone, and the level is displayed as D. When an abnormal object appears, mobile phones with this function nearby will automatically sound an alarm. This is the apartment of the Special Forces team. They will all be here in less than 3 minutes, and Little Orange will definitely be dead. No. Wang Zijin was anxious and flustered, and couldn't help crying along with Xiaojuzi. Xiaojuzi, you are the only one by my side, you can't get into trouble, I will save you, I must save you. She stretched out the hand that had once smashed the object in the mutated crow's brain. The strange black mass had disappeared as it was digested day by day. Yes, digestion. She could clearly feel that she was absorbing something these days, digesting the black mass in the palm of her hand bit by bit. Then, her body changed day by day, and her superpowers increased little by little. She still didn't understand what was going on. What was she absorbing? Would it harm the life of the mutant she absorbed? This is Xiaojuzi, she can't do anything rash. She doesn't dare to do anything if she is not sure it is safe. However, Little Orange couldn't help it anymore and started to mess around first. Little Orange kept yelling, "It smells so good, I'm so hungry, I want to eat it," and bit Wang Zijin with his big mouth. But he still held on to his last bit of rationality, and forced himself to turn his head and bite the pillow, tearing it into pieces in 2 bites, and then he was about to bite Wang Zijin again. It was so scared that it cried even harder. "Master, run quickly. I want to eat. I'm starving. I want to eat you." The mutant has grown so much bigger after the mutation, it would be strange if it wasn't hungry, so it started to hunt humans and devour its own kind. But after they mutated, their basic consciousness still existed. It was too abnormal for someone like Xiaojuzi who was completely unable to control himself. Could it be that her meat is really that delicious? The mutant crow also said that she smelled good, and so did Little Orange. Wang Zijin's mind was in a mess, and he threw out everything he could to resist. In the end, he was forced to the floor-to-ceiling window by Xiaojuzi. Of course she couldn't get out through the floor-to-ceiling window. If she jumped she would die, and she wouldn't be able to save her Little Orange at all. Seeing that Little Orange was about to pounce on her again, she gritted her teeth and clenched her fists immediately, but when she touched the cat's head, she placed her palm on the cat's brow. She was completely risking everything. She was even afraid of blowing the cat's head off with one punch, more than she was afraid of being swallowed by the Little Orange. Xiaojuzi was her spiritual pillar. It was Xiaojuzi who accompanied her and kept her warm throughout the dark abyss for so many years. Wang Zijin placed all his hopes in his palms. He was so nervous that he held his breath, waiting for hope or death. As soon as the palm of my hand touched the cat's head, it was as if attracted by something. I pressed it against the center of the cat's eyebrows, and then something in my palm seemed to be drilling into it like crazy. But this time, it didn't feel as hot as last time, and the thing that went in didn't seem as ferocious. She didn't pay attention to these things, but only stared at the Little Orange that slowly collapsed like a deflated ball when it was touched by her palm. The Little Orange, which had almost expanded to the size of her entire bedroom, was shrinking little by little until it returned to its normal size before the mutation. Wang Zijin's heart was pounding so hard that she caught Xiaojuzi with trepidation and touched Xiaojuzi's nose with trembling fingers. Little Orange's eyes have returned to normal, and they were just opening and closing, and he meowed weakly and fragilely. "Master, I am trapped." Little Orange smacked his saliva-dripping lips and fell asleep right away, as if he was extremely tired and sleepy. Wang Zijin was still in shock. She stared blankly at Xiaojuzi who was curled up on her legs, tears still gathering in the corners of her eyes. It was almost that Xiaojuzi could not be saved. It was almost that she died. It was too scary. Wang Zijin was so scared that she couldn't stop crying. She could only lean against the cold floor-to-ceiling window, biting her lips and crying silently. Suddenly, there was a knock on the French window behind him, and Wang Zijin was so scared that he trembled in response. She turned around in horror and saw a tall black shadow floating outside, which scared her again. She shivered and shrank back in panic, only to see the dark shadow approaching the window, revealing a pale face wearing a mask, and his black eyes looked at her coldly. Wang Zijin looked at him with tearful eyes for several seconds. Nan Nan, who was very slow to react, said, "Chen Jin, Captain Chen." Only then did she regain her consciousness and remembered Chen Jin's wind-related abilities, which allowed him to use the wind to float and accelerate, and he also lived next door to her. With such a big commotion, it was inevitable that the teammates would be alarmed, and Chen Jin, who was sitting next to her, would definitely be the first to arrive. Wang Zijin quickly picked up the sleeping Xiaojuzi, staggered to his feet, opened the window for Chen Jin, and let him in. "Captain Chen, how did you get here?" Her voice was still hoarse, her eyes were red, and her tears were hanging on her eyelashes, very obvious. Chen Jin lowered his eyes slightly and said calmly, "This side is close, are you scared? Weren't you very brave just now? You caught the knife with your bare hands." Wang Zijin. She was stunned for a moment, and it took her a while to understand what he meant. It was a subtle satire on her, saying that she was using her palms to resist the bloody mouth of the mutated Little Orange. Did he see everything? Chapter 22. Why is Chen Jin in her car? Wang Zijin was also forced at that time, and she is scared when she thinks about it now. When Chen Jin saw it, he became even more frightened. She hugged Little Orange tightly and confessed honestly, "Well, Little Orange had a mutation just now, but it's fine now. It's back to normal. It was absorbed by my new ability. She was a little anxious, worried that Chen Jin would eradicate the mutant completely, so she quickly explained and spread out her palm, showing the orange mark. Do you remember the C-rank mutant crow? My palms turned black, and I felt that I absorbed the mutant crow's mutant ability and transformed it into my own ability. My abilities have all been enhanced. If I absorbed it but didn't mutate, then I can absorb more mutants without harming the lives of the mutants, and I can also make myself stronger. Wang Zijin analyzed her thoughts to Chen Jin. The more she analyzed, the happier she became. She said excitedly, my ability seems to be really powerful. Captain Chen, I can help you deal with the mutants. She smiled happily, thinking that she could eliminate the mutant without bloodshed. Wouldn't that be much better than the brutal and bloody fight now? But he saw that Chen Jin didn't seem happy at all. Not only were his dark eyes cold, but they also seemed to be narrowed, and a slightly dangerous murderous aura was gathering. Wang Zijin was too familiar with him like this, and stepped back in fear. Captain Chen, you. I didn't lose the ring. She was afraid that Chen Jin would not believe her, so she took out the dark silver ring tied with a red rope from around her neck, which also had an emerald green jade ring from old times on it. This is something my mother left for me. I always wear it around my neck and never lose it, so I tied it together. She explained nervously, her hand holding the ring sweating. She decided to go all out and take off the ring. I'd better give it back to you. I put it on. Chen Jin finally spoke. He frowned and looked at the cautious and pitifully weak Wang Zijin. The murderous intent in his eyes dissipated a little. Don't use your special ability anymore, okay? He warned, his tone still cold. Wang Zijin was still nervous and frightened. Hearing this, he was stunned and very confused. Why? Chen Jin frowned, but before he could say anything, there was a violent knock on the door. It was Lu Yingchuan. Auntie Wang. Auntie Wang, are you okay? I came here when I saw the red dot of the mutant. It was right next to you. How come it suddenly disappeared? Did you kill the mutant? Auntie Wang, open the door. Lu Yingchuan knocked for a while, and then, probably worried that Wang Zijin was in danger, he resorted to violently breaking down the door. Bang, 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 the furniture in the room was shaking. If the door had not been of good quality, it would have been broken by such great force. Wang Zijin was frightened, but also felt like a savior had come. God knew how scary Chen Jin was just now, much scarier than the mutated little orange. She almost ran to open the door, panting and saying, I'm fine, I killed the mutant. Behind him, Chen Jin slowly walked out of the dark corner and interrupted Wang Zijin's words. Wang Zijin was stunned again and looked at Chen Jin in confusion, not understanding why he lied. He didn't look like a liar. He is a person who disdains to lie. His strength is there, so there is no need for him to lie. But why did he say that? And why did he want to kill her? Maybe it's just an illusion, but Chen Jin, it's really weird. There was no doubt that what Chen Jin said would not be doubted. Lu Yingchuan and his teammates who had arrived from outside all breathed a sigh of relief. Luckily, Captain Chen is here, otherwise Aunt Wang would be in danger. Aunt Wang has not participated in any training and is not equipped with a gun. D-level mutants are also very dangerous. Yes, thank you Captain Chen for saving Aunt Wang from our team, otherwise we would have no food to eat in the future. Eat, eat, eat. All you know is eating. Although I can't live without the food Aunt Wang cooks, har 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 har. The teammates were relaxed and joked around. Finally, Lu Yingchuan asked, where's the mutant? I still have to write a report. I'm so tired. Wang Zijin tightened her arms around Xiao Juzi and subconsciously looked at Chen Jin. As expected, Chen Jin answered for her naturally. It turned into ashes and was blown away by the wind. It was just a cat. Cat. Lu Yingchuan looked at the fat orange cat sleeping soundly in Wang Zijin's arms and had no doubt that it was this cat that had just mutated. He nodded and laughed again. Are you worried that Aunt Wang would get hurt, so you turned the mutant into ashes? It's not that hard for you to deal with C-level mutants. Are you worried about Aunt Wang? Wang Zijin was embarrassed. Captain. You just want to eat the food cooked by Aunt Wang. I knew it. The spicy pig's trotters that I hid as a midnight snack were all eaten up by you. Lu Yingchuan said the second half of the sentence angrily. Wang Zijin. Chen Jin's cold eyes froze for a moment, and then he said expressionlessly, "I didn't eat it secretly. I ate it in front of you." Lu Yingchuan chuckled and went over to hug Chen Jin's neck. The two talked like good friends and then walked away. Wang Zijin sent away the remaining teammates who came to visit her one by one, refused their offer to help clean up the house, and rolled up her sleeves to clean up by herself. The little orange who caused all this was still sleeping soundly. Wang Zijin rubbed its cat's head with amusement, and felt heartbroken when he thought about how Little Orange almost died. Why did Little Orange mutate? Could it be that Xiaoju's mood caused the change? However, Xiaoju's mood seemed normal. Why? Chen Jin didn't let her tell him about Xiaojuzi, and it was not convenient for her to take Xiaojuzi to see a doctor. She kept trying to figure it out, and as a result, she had 2 big dark circles under her eyes the next day. Feng Xiaojie sent Su Yangbei to the hospital last night, and then went out with Li Fei to drink and eat barbecue, so she missed what happened to Wang Zijin last night. She was so tired that she kept yawning. When she saw Wang Zijin, who came to the company earlier than her, she quickly chased him, took Wang Zijin's arm, and asked him about what happened last night. Wang Zijin followed Chen Jin's lie and asked tentatively, "Xiaojia, do you know that there are many strange changes in domestic cats? What causes them?" Feng Xiaojie shook her head. "I've never encountered such a thing. The last time we investigated the mutated dog in Minute City, the owner was not at home. You said this kind of situation is almost non-existent." Wang Zijin was even more confused. Why did the little orange suddenly change? "We've accepted the mission. The itinerary has been sent to everyone. Pack up and get ready to go." Lu Yingchuan called the team members to action as soon as he arrived. He also called out Wang Zijin, "Auntie Wang, your car has arrived. You can slowly familiarize yourself with the company and we can work together on the next mission." When they were having dinner last night, Lu Yingchuan told Wang Zijin to stay in the company to get familiar with the situation. Wang Zijin thought it was feasible at the time. Only if they were familiar with each other would they not be a drag on them. He still feels so now. Anyway, Chen Jin had reminded her not to use her seemingly powerful new ability. Chen Jin would not stop her from using it for no reason, so she had better listen to his advice. She watched them get on the car and waved goodbye. Lu Yingchuan suddenly called her excitedly. "Auntie Wang, come with us. Team 2 is in trouble. We need your special powers to help." Wang Zijin saw that he was very anxious. She had never seen Lu Yingchuan so anxious before. She also became anxious and hurried to her brand new RV. As soon as she got on, she was stunned, because Chen Jin was sitting in her driver's seat, with his legs crossed on the platform, his eyes closed, and he seemed to be asleep. Wang Zijin was confused and doubtful, and looked at her face again and again to make sure that the car was hers and not Chen Jin's. But why was Chen Jin still sleeping in her car? Chapter 23: Chen Jin's Warm Heart. Captain Chen. Captain Chen. Wang Zijin was in a hurry to drive, so he could only tap the chair next to Chen Jin gently. After all, Feng Xiaojie said that he had severe misophobia. Chen Jin's long, thick eyelashes trembled, but he didn't open them. He said, "A337, start the autopilot and catch up with A330. The onboard AI made a cold mechanical sound. "Okay, we have activated the automatic driving for you, activated the full protection, activated the automatic emergency combat system, and the A337 will protect you throughout the journey." After the car started moving, Chen Jin asked calmly, "Do you understand?" "New student." Only then did Wang Zijin realize that Chen Jin was there to teach her how to drive. She was surprised but also grateful. Not to mention, apart from the occasional illusion that Chen Jin wanted to kill her, Chen Jin was a pretty good person most of the time. He gave her a ring as a token of his love, did not despise her for her age, invited her to join Team 1, and personally brought Xiao Lei to her. However, Wang Zijin was still quite puzzled and asked, "Do you personally teach every new student in the Special Forces how to drive?" Shouldn't you be very busy?" Chen Jin still closed his eyes and replied coldly, "I only taught you one thing, you can take a ride, your car is new and clean." Wang Zijin. "I see." Wang Zijin had no more questions. She opened the team chat on her phone and read the message. Only then did she understand why Lu Yingchuan was so anxious. Because some members of Team 2 were trapped by mutants, and the team leader Lu An'er was Lu Yingchuan's cousin. Lu An'er is one of the 3 people in the team who have the ability to communicate with animals and plants, and has won countless military exploits. She is also extremely beautiful, so many people in the team like her and call her Goddess Anna. It is worth mentioning that Lu Anna once dated Su Yangbei, and Su Yangbei was also brought into the special team by Lu Anna. But they broke up soon, and Su Yangbei dated one girl after another and became famous for being fickle and promiscuous. All this gossip was from the private chats Feng Xiaojie sent to her, and the girl chattered non-stop. Finally, she said to Wang Zijin, "Aunt Wang, you said that scumbag Su Yangbei is pestering you. Is it because you are old enough and there is a big difference between you and Lu Anna? Is he deliberately using you to anger Lu Anna?" Wang Zijin felt that it was very possible and that this reason was indeed tenable. It was most likely this reason. These young people are really messing around. There is a generation gap. Generation gap. Wang Zijin, where is the ring? Chen Jin had arrived in front of her without knowing when, and looked at her expressionlessly. Wang Zijin was listening to Feng Xiaojie's voice call, even though the volume was very low, but when she saw Chen Jin, she still hid behind him guiltily. It took her a moment to come to her senses, and she slowly reached out to grab the red rope around her neck. Some of the faded red ropes show how old they are, which shows how much she values and cherishes her mother's relics. Put it together like this. Chen Jin frowned and said, "That's all. I just want to remind you to always wear the ring," and he glanced at Wang Zijin's hand that still had an orange mark on it and said, "You can't absorb any more mutants, otherwise, you will die." Wang Zijin, is it similar to the side effects of the captain's ability? Chen Jin was silent for a moment, and his deep voice seemed to become even deeper, more serious than his. Wang Zijin. It's a bit scary. If Chen Jin didn't seem like the type to joke, she would have suspected that Chen Jin was exaggerating. She didn't notice any disadvantages, but rather a lot of advantages. She could even hear the captain's loud voice in the car in front, arguing fiercely on the phone with Team 2. He said that if anything happened to Lu Anna, the entire Team 2 would not be enough to bury her. And Lu Yingchuan was asking, has Chen Jin not arrived yet? When Wang Zijin heard this, he was stunned for a moment, and looked up in surprise at Chen Jin, who was pressing the earphone button. Does Lu Yingchuan know that Chen Jin is in her car? She thought that it was Lu Yingchuan who instructed Chen Jin to teach her how to drive, but that wasn't the case. Wang Zijin was touched by Chen Jin's warm-heartedness and decided to cook something delicious to thank him later. Chen Jin seemed to like her cooking very much. But after hearing the message from the headset, Chen Jin directly opened the car window, and his figure flashed lightly and disappeared in a flash. Wang Zijin was asking him, "What do you like to eat?" Before she could finish her words, she saw Chen Jin leaving quickly without looking back, leaving her with a head full of question marks. Of course, Wang Zijin didn't cook or eat a single bite until the evening today. Lu Yingchuan held a meeting with them in the car to discuss the place they were about to go, the mutants they would deal with, and the plan to rescue the hostages. The meeting lasted until the end. When getting off the car, Feng Xiaojie lay at the door of her car and cried out that she was hungry and her legs were weak. Wang Zijin felt fine, she didn't feel hungry and instead felt quite energetic. Ever since she absorbed the mutant, she no longer felt hungry and wouldn't feel thirsty even if she didn't drink water for a day. Her body was simply magical now. It's also very strange. This new ability is indeed strange. The mission location of Team 2 is a remote island. The mutant is a kind of fish in the sea, which has bred a group of mutant fish. Species flying in the sky and swimming in the water are difficult to detect and their location is difficult to capture. It was Lu Anna's credit that we were able to find this group of mutated fish this time. She was on a mission with Team 2, and in a nearby fishing village, she accidentally heard the voice of a mutant in the sea, saying that it would eat everyone in the fishing village. The mutated plants they eliminated had destroyed half of the village, so Lu Anna immediately asked all the villagers to evacuate. The villagers have lived here for a long time and are reluctant to leave, so it took a lot of effort to persuade them. But in the end they were unable to evacuate because the mutated fish came too quickly. There were not only the D-level mutated fish that Lu Anna heard of, but also several C-level ones. Team 2 is full of experts with special powers, so dealing with C-level fish is no problem, but there are too many C-level mutant fish that can survive on land. In order to protect the villagers, Lu Anna stepped out to communicate with the mutated fish and divert their attention. Let teammates with fast speed take the opportunity to leave and get help. The news was narrated in detail by the members of Team 2 who came out to ask for help. The young man's eyes were red and he looked very worried, but there was also a gleam of hope in his eyes. Captain Chen has been in there for quite a while. With him here, Captain Anna will definitely be rescued. Captain Anna is such a beautiful and kind person. If something happens to her, I will commit suicide to be buried with her, said the young man with great ambition. Lu Yingchuan slapped him and cursed, "Get lost. Don't curse Anna, she will be fine." Although Team 2 said that Chen Jin had already gone in, Lu Yingchuan still didn't take a moment to rest and asked the members of Team 33 to go in with him. As they strode forward, they shouted to Wang Zijin, who was a little behind them and couldn't keep up with their speed, "Auntie Wang, just tell me the message. We have worked together before. Wang Mao, just follow Auntie Wang. Protect Auntie Wang." Li Fei's ability was relatively weak, so he could only walk to Wang Zijin's side dejectedly and complained, "If Brother Su hadn't been discharged from the hospital, I wouldn't have been responsible for protecting Aunt Wang. I'm so useless, so embarrassing." Chapter 24 Oh Beauty. Wang Zijin felt that she was also quite useless. Lu Anna also has the ability to communicate between animals and plants, but she can stand on her own and be a team leader, and has made great achievements. As for her, she needed the protection of her teammates on the battlefield and couldn't even walk to keep up with their pace. How useless. The two losers stumbled behind, not as agile as the other teammates. Even Feng Xiaojia could run very fast, which made Li Fei jealous. "Since I was little, Xiaojia has relied on her better physical fitness to bully me and snatch my candy. I'm an adult now and I still can't beat her. I'm so angry." Wang Zijin casually said, "Oh," and did not join the conversation because she was listening carefully to the sound of the mutant. The trees around the beach were rustling in the evening breeze, and the sea water was hitting the rocks, making a loud and chaotic noise. But Wang Zijin's hearing is very good now. She can hear the sounds of countless animals and plants in the sea, all talking about the strange group of fish. "Those humans are going to be eaten. The big fish said that if we use up all their energy, we can eat them all in one bite. Are humans delicious? It's humans who are eating us. We can finally eat humans. I also want to become a big monster fish. Let's run away. The big monster fish ate those humans and is coming to eat us. Let's run away quickly." "Oh, human." Wang Zijin asked them what special changes had occurred in the mutated fish and what it was afraid of, so that they could help her deal with the mutated fish. But they refused. "You humans are too weak. The human who asked us questions before is surrounded by giant fish. He's going to be eaten." Wang Zijin knew that they were probably talking about Lu Anna. It seems that Lu Anna also asked these questions, so the direction of her questions was correct, but these fish could not provide any solutions. So, Wang Zijin said shamelessly, "I am very strong, believe me, you can only believe me, otherwise you can only leave here." They were reluctant to leave here, and Wang Zijin only asked them to gather information, not to fight the giant monster fish. So the small fish started working, but they came back after a while and said they saw a bigger monster fish. It's even more ferocious than the giant monster fish that appeared here. A human in black clothes was almost eaten by it. It's so scary. The news from the fishes surprised Wang Zijin. Is the man in black Chen Jin? Wang Zijin thought about it, and then conveyed all the information he had collected to Lu Yingchuan, who had already rushed forward through the headset configured on his mobile phone. Lu Yingchuan had already arrived and met the members of Team 2 and the villagers, as well as Lu Anna, who were surrounded by the mutated fish. He was anxious to save his cousin, so he hurriedly told Wang Zijin to keep investigating, then took out his 2 golden revolvers and joined the battlefield. The hostages' situation was indeed difficult. They had been trapped for a long time, and no matter how powerful the members of Team 2 were, they were unable to eliminate a group of sea-level mutated fish. Besides, they also had to protect the villagers, so many of them were injured. Lu Anna was treating them one by one. Although Lu Anna has little fighting power and only has the ability to communicate with animals and plants, she originally studied medicine. Therefore, there was no doctor in their team, and the doctor's position was vacated for the psychic, with Lu Anna working as a part-time doctor. Lu Anna's combat uniform was soaked, her long chestnut curly hair was wet and wrapped around her pale face, with bloodstains particularly noticeable. Lu Yingchuan felt distressed when he saw this and shouted, "Chen Jin! Where did you go to save people? Were they eaten by the mutated fish?" Lu Yingchuan's voice echoed in the headphones. Wang Zijin felt like her ears were about to explode and quickly took them off. Even without headphones, she could hear Lu Yingchuan's voice clearly, as well as a tired and cold woman's voice. Brother, you're finally here. I thought I'd never see you again. Are you talking to Captain Chen? Is Captain Chen here too? Wang Zijin listened to these sounds, and even his eyesight became particularly good, and he could vaguely see a large group of densely packed mutated fish. They roared and were attacked by various powers and weapons, but they could also spray out globs of dark green slime that would cause festering if touched. The battle was fierce and Wang Zijin was very anxious. C-rank mutant fish, if Chen Jin was here, the chances would be better, but Chen Jin. Wang Zijin followed the fish for a long distance, not towards the team members where the battle was fierce, but towards the bigger fish. She believed that her fighting ability was far inferior to Chen Jin's. Instead of her going to help, it would be better for Chen Jin to go to help, but the prerequisite is that Chen Jin is not eaten by the fish. The fish said it was not far away, so she soon saw an island floating on the sea and swaying. No, it's not an island, it's a monster fish. A huge monster fish. The fishes argued. Wang Zijin also realized that it was not an island, but a living creature. It opened its huge mouth wide and bit so hard that the sea water splashed 3 feet high. It seemed to have a strong magnetic field. The surrounding sea water was turbulent and the fish dared not approach it, saying tremblingly that they would die if they got close. Li Fei also squatted on the ground, holding his head and murmured in pain, "I deserve to die, I am such a waste, my life is a waste of food, I deserve to die, I deserve to die." He muttered to himself and pinched his own neck so hard that he rolled on the ground and rolled his eyes. Wang Zijin was so shocked that she quickly pulled his hand away and said anxiously, "Li Fei. Li Fei, what's wrong with you? You are not useless at all. You are much better than me. Li Fei." She had not received any physical training and her strength was still a little lacking, so she could not pry open Li Fei's hands that were trying to strangle her. But it was strange that she felt an inexplicable suction force on the palm of her hand again. Although it was very subtle, as soon as she put it on Li Fei's forehead, Li Fei woke up. He was gasping for breath in shock, his face pale with cold sweat, and he backed away as hard as he could, shouting hoarsely, "Mental attack. It's a mental attack. This is a Class B mutant." He wanted to inform Lu Yingchuan and the others immediately through his cell phone, but the Class B magnetic field was too strong and all he heard was a crackling sound that interfered with the sound. He put down his phone in frustration, covered his face in pain, and murmured, "Auntie Wang, it's over, we're done, we can't escape, we're dead, I don't want to die, I haven't been in love, I haven't married Xiaojia, I haven't confessed my love to Xiaojia, woo." Li Fei, a grown man, was crying with tears and snot, while Wang Zijin was still focusing on the palm of his hand. What did she absorb just now? Li Fei, isn't he a mutant? Why can she also absorb the energy from Li Fei? No, not energy. Wang Zijin suddenly had an idea, but she didn't have the chance to think about it, because the B-level mutant as big as an island was pouncing on them like a hungry tiger. The water splashed, and the mutated fish screamed frantically, "Smells good. So good. Delicious. Oh, beauty. You are really suitable for reproducing my descendants." Chapter 25 will make her vanish into ashes. Wang Zijin was so scared that she was also stepping back. She didn't think the mutated fish was talking about her at all. First, she is not beautiful. Second, she is a human being, how could she reproduce with a fish? So, Wang Zijin just thought that there were some fish nearby that attracted the mutated fish, but why did the mutated fish rush straight towards her? Li Fei had already approached the mutated fish, and his eyes, ears, mouth and nose were all bleeding. However, Wang Zijin did not feel any discomfort except fear and nervousness. Wang Zijin touched his nose and found that the nosebleed had stopped. She quickly helped Li Fei up. Even though she knew she couldn't escape, she still wanted to run. At the same time, he secretly clenched his fists, ready to punch when he could no longer escape and was about to be eaten. Although Chen Jin said that she would die if she used this power, she would die too if she didn't use it, and even die earlier. But she didn't expect that when she saw the danger approaching and raised her fist to strike, a long sword wrapped in black cloth pierced straight into the mutant fish's forehead. Wang Zijin's face was splashed with blood by the mutated fish. Only then did he see a tall man in black combat uniform and black mask standing on the huge head of the mutated fish. Chen Jin rode the sea breeze and stood upright, even though the mutated fish twisted and turned in pain, wailing and trying to throw him off. It hurts so much. It hurts so much that this great king is dying. This damned human. Didn't I beat him to death? How come he is still alive? Die. Go to hell. I will eat you first, the human who ruined my happy event. The mutated fish started to move violently, and Wang Zijin quickly warned, Captain Chen, be careful. It wants to eat you. Chen Jin had already drawn his sword and glanced at her lightly as he stepped back. Wang Zijin then remembered that Chen Jin also had the ability to communicate with animals and plants, but she was so nervous that she forgot about it. Chen Jin retreated from the fish's head to its back. The long sword flew into his hand as he moved, and all the blood and dirt on the sword magically disappeared. He gripped the hilt of the sword with his slender fingers and flew back in the air again. The mutant fish swung its tail like a dragon and chased after him madly. Eat! Eat him! The damn human ran away. He got scared. Eat him! Eat him! Wang Zijin heard the mutated fish's wild cries and became even more worried about Chen Jin. The mutated fish said that Chen Jin was almost beaten to death by it, and if he chased it, he might really die. Wang Zijin hurriedly chased after him, but Li Fei held her ankle tightly. Auntie Wang, don't go. You will die. Captain Chen can't beat him, so it's useless for you to go. Li Fei kept in mind the important task of protecting Wang Zijin. Wang Zijin was about to ask him to let go when he suddenly saw another group of mutated fish, sea-level mutated fish, coming from the other side of the mutated fish. Chen Jin's position will make him be besieged from both sides, and the chance of his death will be even greater. Wang Zijin didn't have time to explain, so he used his special ability and said, let go. Back off. Of course Li Fei was unwilling to let go or retreat, but he just couldn't control himself. He let go of his hand all of a sudden and took a long step back. Li Fei was shocked, yet also felt familiar. Isn't this his control ability? How come Aunt Wang also has this ability? And can she control him in seconds? Is his ability inferior to Aunt Wang's? Li Fei's head was full of questions, but Wang Zijin wouldn't give him any answers, which shocked herself. She was just guessing that perhaps after absorbing the mutant, she would possess the mutant's superpowers, and the same was true for those with superpowers. She had wanted to try it before, but had no chance. Now she had caught the opportunity by chance, but had no time to experience it properly. She was busy rescuing Chen Jin. Chen Jin had long lost sight of anyone, so she could only chase the mutated fish that was as big as an island. The muddy beach caused her to fall several times. It's too difficult. Although she looks younger, her athletic ability is too poor. She gritted her teeth and put in a lot of effort before finally catching up with the tail of the B-level mutant fish. She saw Chen Jin, who had already killed more than half of the sea-level mutant fish. Chen Jin stood on the corpses of the sea-level mutant fish, and with a slash of his blood-stained sword, 3 sea-level mutant fish fell down in an instant. It was as easy as cutting vegetables, but the B-level was much stronger, and he could only cut a little flesh with the sword. The B-level mutant fish screamed in pain and pounced even more fiercely. Damn human! You can't escape. Die. It opened its mouth wide and spurted out several streams of dense and thick dark green mucus, like a torrential rain that made it impossible to avoid. Fortunately, Chen Jin has wind-related abilities and he quickly dodged the range of the slime, but there were still a bunch of sea-level mutant fish besieging him. When he swung his sword to kill the sea-level mutant fish, the B-level mutant fish swung its tail from behind, making it impossible for Chen Jin to avoid it. Chen Jin's sword is still stuck in the mutant fish, and that blow will definitely hit Chen Jin. Wang Zijin's heart was beating so fast that it reached his throat. He jumped up suddenly and his feet became light all of a sudden. 2 jet-black wings spread out behind him. She was afraid and relieved at the same time, because she did have the super-fast flight ability of the mutated crow. However, her wings were weak and she was about to fall. She closed her eyes because she was afraid of heights, and used the force to jump forward. With the same agility as Little Orange, she slapped the B-level mutant fish on the forehead with great precision. She didn't know whether her special ability would be effective against B-level ones. She used Li Fei's puppet control ability when she was chasing after him, but failed to stop the B-level mutant fish from attacking, so she was not very confident this time. But it doesn't matter. Although she is afraid of death, she is more afraid that people who are good to her will be killed in front of her and she will be powerless to do anything. She had been living in cold darkness all her life, being treated indifferently and bullied. When she met someone who was a little bit nice to her, she felt like she had encountered a ray of sunshine. Every ray of sunshine warms her up, and makes her repay every drop of kindness with a spring of gratitude. Wang Zijin closed her eyes tightly in fear. The palm of her hand, guided by attraction, suddenly became incredibly hot, as if it was placed in boiling water. The boiling water rushed into Wang Zijin's hands. The pain made Wang Zijin's face pale and he screamed, "Arr," with his mouth open. "It hurts. It hurts so much." She fainted from the pain, but in the last second before she lost consciousness, she tried to keep her eyes open and saw the B-level mutant fish deflated and fell backwards with a bang. She was also falling backwards. Her body seemed to be filled with boiling water, heavy and painful, but she fainted limply. Below her was the dirty muddy beach. She thought she would sink into it, but the moment she fell, she was caught by a black figure that flashed like lightning. Wang Zijin. Chen Jin gritted his teeth slightly, his black eyes outside the mask were gloomy and cold as if filled with murderous aura. The long sword floating at his side was pointed at Wang Zijin's head. If it came down a little bit more, she would be reduced to ashes. Chapter 26. She felt very comfortable. Lu Yingchuan's continuous roar could be heard from the headset, and he was shouting heartbreakingly, "Chen Jin, come here quickly. I'm going to die." Chen Jin did not reply. He just stared coldly at Wang Zijin, who had fainted in his arms in the air, with the blade of the sword against Wang Zijin's forehead for several seconds. Time seemed to have stopped. The water waves were flying on the sea surface where the magnetic field had not dissipated. Even the water droplets were suspended in the air like a bead curtain, motionless. Just a few seconds later, Chen Jin sighed inaudibly, then holding Wang Zijin in his arms, he lightly jumped onto the beach, stepping on the water droplets. The muddy and swampy dirty beach was walked on by him as if it were flat ground, without a speck of dust on it. There was only Wang Zijin sleeping in his arms, his face covered in dirty blood and his clothes dirty and torn. Chen Jin frowned, took off his coat and wrapped her up, then held her up with one hand and continued walking forward. Without even turning his head, he raised his slender fingers and lightly tapped, and the floating water droplets behind him instantly crackled and hit the calm sea surface. The static space seemed to resume flowing in an instant. The water droplets sank into the sea, but huge waves rose up, and the mutated fish that had its superpowers sucked away and shrunken emerged from the sea. It screamed ferociously and turned into a pool of blood in the blink of an eye. Nearby, there were also several islands that protruded out of the water and exploded into powder. Those islands screamed in pain, but they were not islands, but schools of B-level mutant fish. Wang Zijin had spent all his energy to exchange one B-level mutant fish for another, but it was easily killed by a small water droplet, and a group of them were killed in an instant. But Wang Zijin didn't know all this. She had been unconscious for a long time, and had been in a state of boiling heat. The energy that she had previously been able to absorb seemed to be overloaded, flowing through and swelling her veins. She felt like her tendons were about to explode, and she tried hard to absorb it. Although the absorption was slow and painful, she never stopped. In a trance, she seemed to hear someone talking, "You are so afraid of death, yet you are risking your life to save others. You are different." She was probably dreaming, because the man said something vague and then wiped her face little by little with a wet handkerchief. When the slightly cool fingertips touched her, she felt extremely comfortable. Her whole body was burning with heat, and she eagerly pursued that slight coolness, rubbing it again and again, wanting more and more. But Jian Weiliang soon disappeared. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't find him. She could only endure the burning pain and the uncomfortable torment by herself. When she finally climbed out of the boiling water and opened her eyes blearily, she didn't know which evening it was. She found herself lying on a clean white hospital bed, with an injection of nutritional supplements hanging on her body. On the accompanying chair beside the bed was a pure black combat jacket. It's quite big and looks familiar. Wang Zijin stared at the dark bloodstains remaining on his clothes, thinking of the battle that had not been completely resolved before he fainted. His eyelids twitched, and he quickly sat up and put on his shoes. "My head is still dizzy, my fingers are a little soft, and I feel a little." Wang Zijin looked at her own white and slender fingers with the light peach color on her fingertips. She almost didn't realize that it was her own hand. She was stunned for several seconds before she remembered to touch her face, but the noisy noise outside was too loud, and it was the same sound that she was familiar with and hated. "Here we go again." Wang Zijin took a deep breath and walked over weakly with a still somewhat unsteady step to open the door of the ward. She saw Zhu Moli crying heartbrokenly and Xiao Zhenxiong arguing loudly outside. Zhu Moli and Xiao Zhenxiong were pecked by birds last time. Now both of them are wrapped in gauze all over their bodies, including their faces, like mummies. Wang Zijin was able to recognize them without looking at their faces, not only because her voices were so familiar to her, but also because she seemed to be able to see their bloody faces through the gauze. It's disgusting and shocking. Wang Zijin rubbed his eyes in surprise, and suddenly, at a speed that was difficult to capture with the naked eye, he saw Xiao Zhenxiong rushing towards Wang Jianfeng in the wheelchair, but was blocked by Feng Xiaojia's fire. Feng Xiaojia only needs to wave his hand to create a ball of flame, which is quite fast. But Wang Zijin could clearly see every detail of her, including how the flames emerged from her palms and formed palm-sized flames. She has really been strengthened again. And strengthened a lot. She felt that the veins in her body were clear and pure, surrounded by a faint colorful glow, which was particularly beautiful. It is completely different from the sticky ugliness when I first peeked at the veins. Help! A special forces superpower has killed someone. Everyone, come and give us some advice. I'm so injured, but I still want to visit my seriously ill husband. Did I do anything wrong? Oh. Zhu Moli rolled on the ground crying. She had never received Wang Jianfeng's forgiveness or love. She was so angry that she didn't care about her image anymore and kept rushing over to hug Wang Jianfeng's thighs. Jianfeng! You can't be so cruel. I was really forced. I brought Xiao Zhenxiong here to ask him to apologize to you. Please forgive me, didn't you always say that I was young and should be loved and pampered? Uncle Wang. Oh. Zhu Moli was so anxious that she started calling him Uncle Wang. That was the respectful title she called Wang Zijin when she was best friends with him. Later, it became the name they used for sex. Wang Jianfeng's face instantly turned the color of liver, and he coughed rapidly for a while. Shut up. Zhu Moli was not willing to shut up, and she struck while the iron was hot. Uncle Wang, I love you, I can't live without you, please don't let little Moli leave you, okay? Please, Jianfeng, Qingqing doesn't recognize me anymore, little Moli only has you, sob. If this had happened in the past, Wang Jianfeng would have been heartbroken. Zhu Moli had never cried like this before, and expressed her love so humbly and openly. Wang Zijin looked at Wang Jianfeng worriedly, because if she was the love-brained her before, she would never let Xiao Zhenxiong be so pitiful and would definitely feel distressed first. But Wang Jianfeng didn't. Wang Jianfeng didn't show any pity for Zhu Moli. He decisively asked Li Fei and others to drive the two men away. Wang Zijin secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, her father was not as weirdly love-minded as her, otherwise, wait. Wang Zijin wanted to quietly retreat back to the ward because she felt that she had to figure out her own situation first, and she also seemed to be feeling abnormal. But suddenly she found that someone rushed out of his father's ward, holding a shiny fruit knife in his hand, and stabbed his father in the back. Everyone else's attention was on Zhu Moli and Xiao Zhenxiong, who were causing the most trouble, including Wang Zijin herself. If her retina had not suddenly been enhanced, she would not have noticed this scene. Wang Zijin was terrified and quickly ran over there, using Li Fei's control ability to issue an order. Chapter 27 Wang Zijin is my wife. Wang Qingqing. Put down the knife. Wang Zijin made a sound, and the onlookers followed the sound and found Wang Zijin running out. There is nothing special about Wang Zijin's current image, just an ordinary hospital gown, with waist-length black hair that is loose and a little messy. But when she ran out, the light of the setting sun shone on her, making her fair face appear pure and her amber eyes clear and flawless. It makes people feel as if they see a goddess running in the mountains. There is a kind of ethereal holiness that is breathtaking and beautiful. Everyone was stunned, even Feng Xiaojia, whom Wang Zijin was familiar with, was grinning. My Aunt Wang, no, my sister, is so beautiful. Sister Zijin is so beautiful. She was so excited that she was incoherent. Li Fei beside him sighed in shock and agreed, yes, she is so beautiful. Aunt Wang's rejuvenation ability is so strong. I'm afraid our team will have one more goddess now. Feng Xiaojia retorted unconvincedly, what do you mean by afraid? My sister Zijin is a goddess. The most goddess of goddesses. Although I also like Goddess Anna, I like Sister Zijin more, so I choose Sister Zijin. Li Fei, you are here to choose a concubine. Feng Xiaojia rolled her eyes, and then held her face and said, Sister Zijin is worthy of being chosen as a concubine. Just choose me. I have good taste. I have seen that Sister Zijin is very beautiful before. You scumbags still don't believe it. Li Fei, how come I'm a scumbag again? I don't even have a girlfriend. I've never even held a girl's hand. When Li Fei and Feng Xiaojia were arguing, Wang Zijin ran to Wang Jianfeng in one breath and pushed Wang Jianfeng's wheelchair to a safe place. Although Xiao Shui had been controlled by her supernatural powers and had put down the knife, she was staring at her in shock and disgust. Xiao Shui had already heard those people calling her Auntie Wang and Sister Zijin. This woman, who was almost as young as her and as beautiful as a fairy, was actually her mother. Xiao Shui couldn't believe it and was very angry towards Wang Zijin, so she immediately picked up the knife and wanted to stab Wang Zijin a few times. Auntie Wang, be careful. Sister Zijin, be careful. Be careful, wife. Mom, be careful. Wang Zijin. A series of chaotic voices confused Wang Zijin's mind, but she had already noticed Xiao Shui's little action, so without those people shouting, she had already used her supernatural power to say, "Kneel down." Xiao Shui immediately knelt on the ground with a plop. Xiao Shui was shocked and terrified. Although she had seen people with superpowers before, this order was given by Wang Zijin. How could she listen to him? No, this is not Wang Zijin. This beautiful, powerful young woman is definitely not her mother, that old, ugly, stupid, damn loser. Xiao Shui stared at Wang Zijin intently and gritted her teeth. Who are you? Why do you ask me to kneel down? Sister. She is mom. Xiao Lei shouted with his hands clasped together like a loudspeaker, and walked towards this side anxiously with his prosthetic legs which were not yet smooth. Sister, didn't you promise me not to hurt Grandpa? Why don't you keep your word? You said you believe what I said. Xiao Lei said. Xiao Shui sneered, I won't pretend to believe you. You won't even let Grandpa see me. Xiao Lei, you are awesome. You helped that ugly woman's people to deal with Dad. Have you forgotten who gave you money to spend and gave us money to bribe our classmates and get rid of the bullies? Xiao Shui was very angry and hateful when she talked about it. That's right, you are younger than me and a boy, how could you know the bullying I suffered, which ruined my life? I'm only 17 years old. Xiao Shui burst into tears and stared at Wang Zijin angrily. It's all your fault. It's all your fault, you vicious, stupid, ugly woman. What ugly woman? My wife is so beautiful, how can she be ugly? Su Yangbei appeared from nowhere, stood next to Wang Zijin, and smiled at her gently and affectionately. Auntie Wang, my face was disfigured because of protecting you. Do you dislike me? You won't abandon me, will you? I can help you teach our naughty daughter well. I am very virtuous. Su Yangbei also had gores covering half of his face, and his pale face looked very fragile. He added weakly, you were unconscious these few days, and I was the one taking care of our son and our father. Su Yangbei. The veins on Wang Zijin's forehead jumped. He looked at him coldly and ordered with his supernatural power, shut up and go back. Su Yangbei. Su Yangbei shut up, but the others were excited. Her father actually nodded in satisfaction. Xiaosu is a good child, filial and considerate, and most importantly, he swore to me a few days ago that he would marry you. At that time, you were not like this. At that time, Wang Zijin had not yet undergone a major transformation and was still quite old and ugly, but Wang Jianfeng felt that Su Yangbei was very sincere to Wang Zijin. Xiao Lei also expressed his opinion, I also recognize him as my stepfather. Although he is not particularly capable, he is handsome, treats me well, buys me snacks and clothes, and is worthy of being my stepfather. He is much better than my father. Xiao Lei. Xiao Zhenxiong was furious. He was still in shock before, stunned by Wang Zijin's transformation. He didn't expect that Wang Zijin was even more beautiful than when he first met her at the age of 18. Although her appearance hasn't changed much, it's as if her whole body is glowing with colorful light. She is particularly beautiful, and it makes his heart especially moved. She makes his heart beat faster than Wang Zijin when she was 18 years old. He had liked Wang Zijin, the innocent and beautiful daughter of the richest man, so he immediately agreed to Zhu Moli's bizarre seduction plan. But after he succeeded in catching her, the novelty wore off, and he found Wang Zijin's blind love for him annoying, and the more he looked at her, the more annoyed he became. Wang Zijin, who is now younger and seems to be more beautiful, makes Xiao Zhenxiong's heart beat again. He couldn't say the words he wanted to scold Wang Zijin. So he changed the sentence. Wife, you have been my wife for 20 years, and we have 3 children. It was my husband who was wrong before. He was blinded by lard and deceived by Zhu Moli. Please forgive me once, and I swear to love you only from now on. Xiao Zhenxiong raised his finger and swore on the spot, which made Zhu Moli next to him so angry that she slapped him hard in the face. Xiao Zhenxiong was even more rude. He slapped her twice in the face and said angrily, "If you hadn't seduced me all day, said bad things about my wife, and falsely accused Wang Zijin of spreading those photos of me at school, how could I have betrayed my beloved wife?" In order to show his goodwill, he took the initiative to explain to Xiao Shui, "What your brother said is true. It was that bitch Zhu Moli who did it. She was just jealous that Zijin had such an excellent husband like me, and wanted to snatch me away." Wife. He turned around and saw Su Yangbei still smiling at Wang Zijin, looking like he didn't care at all. Xiao Zhenxiong pushed him away angrily. "Go away, pretty boy. Wang Zijin is my wife." Su Yangbei still kept his mouth shut, but when he was pushed, he fell in the opposite direction and fell directly into Wang Zijin's arms. Chapter 28. Will Captain Chen like Aunt Wang? Wang Zijin had been listening to them arguing for a long time. She felt so dizzy that she could hardly stand. Then she saw Su Yangbei falling towards her small body, which scared her. Just as she was about to use her supernatural power to push him away, someone suddenly appeared and picked up her while she was about to fall. Wang Zijin felt dizzy and raised her head vaguely. She saw the man holding her, wearing the familiar black mask. In a trance, a picture flashed through Wang Zijin's mind. It seemed that he was holding her in his arms and walking on the muddy and dirty beach. She seemed to have some impression of this, but she thought it was probably a dream. After all, she had already fainted. She thought back to her dream and imagined how meticulously he took care of her. Wang Zijin felt so guilty and embarrassed that she wanted to faint. Then, "Captain Chen, I can walk by myself." "You can't." Chen Jin interrupted her coldly. He didn't even look at the others, nor paid attention to what they were saying excitedly. He just picked up Wang Zijin and went back to the ward. Wang Zijin had no choice but to grab a little bit of his sleeve and stopped protesting. She really was a little unable to walk back by herself. Moreover, Chen Jin was simply helping her, a man who might want to kill her at any time, so she didn't have any thoughts of falling in love in her mind. So I thanked him sincerely. "Captain Chen, you are such a good person." "Chen Jin, good guy cards. Why didn't you give them the cards just now?" "They?" Wang Zijin took 2 seconds to react before asking in confusion, "They are not good people, why did they send it?" Chen Jin raised his thick eyebrows, and his dark pupils reflected the sickly yet beautiful face of the woman in his arms, like a white lotus slowly awakening in a pool of blood. Chen Jin didn't know what he was thinking of. He lowered his raised eyebrows, put her on the bed, and said coldly, "Don't run around anymore. You are lucky to wake up this time. Don't do it again next time. Do you hear me?" Wang Zijin felt weak and had a fever as if he had a bad cold, which was a sign that the absorption was not yet complete. The supernatural power absorbed was so terrifying that it would indeed cost her life. Who would want to die? She didn't want to die unless it was absolutely necessary. She still had her father to take care of and the country to protect. She has been in a coma these days and has been fighting the disease. She almost couldn't defeat the disease. It was really dangerous. She no longer felt that Chen Jin was exaggerating and nodded obediently, "Okay, I'll try my best." Chen Jin frowned, very dissatisfied with the answer, but said nothing more because Feng Xiaojia and Li Fei followed him into the ward excitedly. "Sister Zijina, am I disturbing you?" Feng Xiaojia said sorry for disturbing them, but her eyes were still wandering around the two of them with gossip, even though Chen Jin and Wang Zijin kept a clear distance and there was no ambiguity between them. Li Fei was much more normal. He sat down on the accompanying chair and started howling at the top of his lungs. "Aunt Wang, who on earth are you? Not only do you have the ability to communicate with animals and plants, you also have the ability to rejuvenate, and you can control me. You are simply an almighty god. Your position in my heart is almost catching up with our Captain Chen." Captain Chen had no reaction to the flattery. He turned and left, taking the black coat from the chair. Wang Zijin subconsciously said, "Captain Chen, I will wash your clothes for you and return them to you." "No need." Chen Jin didn't even turn his head. His long legs looked casual, even a little lazy, but they disappeared at an extremely fast speed. Li Fei sighed and said, "Auntie Wang, you don't have to wash Captain Chen's clothes. His dirty clothes should be thrown away and bought new ones. Every time I see his clothes, they are so clean that there is no smell at all. Those who have military merits are so noble." Wang Zijin said, "Oh," and agreed with it. This was quite consistent with Chen Jin's personality of severe misophobia. Feng Xiaojie sighed, "Is there something wrong with Captain Chen's eyes? Sister Zijin has become so beautiful, but he is still so cold to her. Sister Zijin saved him after all. He killed the mutant and threw Sister Zijin back to the RV, and he never looked at her again. If he hadn't just given me a princess hug, I would have suspected that I was supporting the wrong couple." "Oh, don't say it, I was wrong. Feng Xiaojie knew that Wang Zijin didn't like these things, so she ran over and hugged Wang Zijin's arm, talking about the people making trouble outside and what happened in the past few days. Only then did Wang Zijin realize that she had been in a coma for 5 days, and the doctor said that it was a medical miracle that she could survive. But Wang Zijin managed to get through it. Feng Xiaojie kept praising Wang Zijin for being so capable and reported who had come to see Wang Zijin. For example, Wang Jianfeng, Xiao Lei, and some teammates, including Su Yangbei. However, Feng Xiaojie did not agree to let Su Yangbei accompany Wang Zijin, and even drove Su Yangbei away with a broom. This is what Li Fei said. Feng Xiaojie said confidently, "What's wrong with driving him away? He is a scumbag. Not only did he come to Sister Zijin's place, he also went to Goddess Anna's place. Lu Anna was also hospitalized. The injuries she suffered at the beach were so severe that she has not been discharged from the hospital yet. Lu Yingchuan has been with her all the time." At this point, Feng Xiaojie started gossiping again and whispered, "I heard that Goddess Anna is the adopted daughter of the Lu family, not their biological daughter. I think the captain is so anxious and angry. He must be secretly in love with Goddess Anna. It's a forbidden love, and he wants excitement." Li Fei immediately ruffled her pigtails and said, "Wash your brain. It's all pornographic garbage. Isn't it good to read some astronomy and geography at such a young age? Aren't they better than those romance novels you read? Get out. You can insult me, but you can't insult my favorite romance novel." Feng Xiaojie was so angry that she started fighting with him. The two of them were making so much noise that Wang Zijin couldn't even take a quiet rest, so she decided to explore her supernatural powers, which seemed to have been enhanced a lot. "First of all, my eyesight is better and my hearing is better." She heard the voices of Xiao Zhenxiong and Zhu Moli swearing at each other outside as they were driven out but were unwilling to leave, mixed with a few taunts from Xiao Shui. "It's no wonder that you're the one in trouble now. You deserve it. You've done so many bad things and hurt me. I hate you so much. Sister, where are you going? Sister, please wait for me. Sister, don't go. Sister, go and apologize to Mom. Sister," Xiao Lei's voice. She didn't want to hear any more of this, so she simply ignored them and heard a familiar, cold female voice. "Brother, you really don't have to accompany me. I'm almost well now, and my Team 2 members are here to accompany me." "Oh? Lu Anna?" Wang Zijin was about to change her seat when she heard Lu Anna ask, "Aren't you going to go see Aunt Wang from your team? I heard that her rejuvenation ability has made her young and beautiful now. She is going to replace me as the goddess of the team." Her tone was full of laughter, and she joked with Lu Yingchuan easily, and continued with a smile, "I heard that Captain Chen went to see Aunt Wang, and just now he carried Aunt Wang back to the ward. Brother, do you think Captain Chen will like Aunt Wang? Is Aunt Wang really that beautiful? Is Captain Chen also attracted to her?" Chapter 29. I like being a tyrant. Lu Yingchuan laughed out loud. "How is that possible? Aunt Wang is so old. Do you think we are all like that pervert Su Yangbei? Breaking up with Su Yangbei is the right choice." Lu Anna said, "Brother, you have a misunderstanding about Yangbei. He is actually... Hey, let's not talk about him. We are talking about Captain Chen. Brother, answer me." Lu Yingchuan sighed, "Anna, you keep asking Captain Chen, whether you are. Wang Zijin, I told you to have a good rest, what are you doing?" A cold and familiar voice suddenly entered Wang Zijin's ears as she was eavesdropping, and frightened her so much that she trembled violently. She subconsciously raised her head and looked around the room, but did not see Chen Jin. Where is Chen Jin? How can I talk to her? How did he know that he didn't rest? And how did he know that she was eavesdropping on other people's conversations? Is his ability to communicate with animals and plants so much stronger than hers? Wang Zijin was shocked, ashamed and embarrassed, and quickly stopped eavesdropping. Only then did he hear Feng Xiaojie in the room still describing the fierce battle that day. It was so dangerous that day. The captain almost used his supernatural powers. Aunt Wang, you don't know that Goddess Anna was almost eaten by the mutant fish. The captain was so worried. Fortunately, Captain Chen arrived in the end. Captain Chen came here carrying you. He said you were seriously injured and unconscious. He killed the B-level mutant fish to save you. That's why he was late in rescuing Team 2. Auntie Wang, you don't know that Captain Chen held you in one hand and easily dealt with that group of C-level mutant fish with the other hand. It was so cool. I almost screamed. That CP feeling. Oh. Auntie Wang, I was wrong. I couldn't help but get mad again, but at that time I really was like the hero and heroine in the book. Wang Zijin. Do you think I, a 40-year-old, look like a heroine? Wang Zijin thought helplessly. Wang Zijin naturally didn't know what Feng Xiaojie said, but she had a vague impression of some similarities in her dream. So, Chen Jin really hugged her. Captain Chen, you are such a good person. Wang Zijin sighed, and didn't care that Chen Jin said that he was the one who killed the B-level mutant fish, and didn't mention her strange ability at all. That supernatural power was indeed mysterious, and she didn't dare to use it easily again, so she decided not to mention it. But, her military achievements. Killing a B-level mutant fish, what a great military achievement. She also wants military merit. She doesn't want to be a waste. Just as Alexander was thinking, suddenly, a cold voice came into his ears again. A tall tree attracts the wind. Being high profile is not a good thing. It is safer to be unknown. Wang Zijin. Wang Zijin was now certain that Chen Jin could hear her thoughts. His abilities were much stronger than hers, but she did not quite agree with what he said. If a person has no ambition in his life, what is the difference between him and a salted fish? She had been a lazy person for 20 years, and the ending was not good. Besides, if she is not stronger, how can she protect the people she wants to protect and protect herself? She wanted to refute Chen Jin, but she couldn't communicate with Chen Jin like he did, so she wanted to use her cell phone to send Chen Jin a message to argue with him. But at this time, Su Yangbei came with Xiao Shui and Xiao Lei. Su Yangbei was stopped outside the door by Feng Xiaojie, and could only call out pitifully, "Wife, let me and the children go in to see you. We haven't seen you for a few days. The children and I miss you very much, wife." Wang Zijin's head hurt so much that it exploded. He rubbed his forehead, thought for a while, and said, "Come in, Su Yangbei, you come in alone. Why don't you let us in?" Xiao Shui was unconvinced. "Wang Zijin, don't think that just because you didn't do that, you don't owe me and Lei anything. You said you wanted to break off relations with Lei and me, so just do it, and don't regret it." "Sister, don't say that." Xiao Lei quickly covered Xiao Shui's mouth. "Mom is still angry with us, wait until she calms down." "She is angry but I am not." Xiao Shui was irritable and resentful. "I will hate her forever. She can't even protect my daughter. She doesn't deserve to be my mother." "Sister, don't be angry anymore. Mom doesn't know either." Before Xiao Lei could finish his words, the door was closed by Feng Xiaojie, and only Su Yangbei went in happily. Feng Xiaojie gave him and Wang Zijin their own space, which was Wang Zijin's request. Feng Xiaojie was extremely unhappy, fearing that Wang Zijin had been deceived by Su Yangbei. Su Yangbei was very good at deceiving girls, otherwise why did he have so many girlfriends coming to him one after another? In comparison, Captain Chen is much better than Su Yangbei. Feng Xiaojie was very unhappy that a third party had intervened in their couple's relationship, so she had a bad expression and gave Xiao Shui a cold look. "You're so old, but you still blame your mother for everything. You even blamed your mother when something happened to you at school. Why don't you blame your father, the real murderer who hurt you? The people at school who laugh at your mother don't understand her. Your mother raised you, don't you understand her? Not only did you not help your mother clarify the matter, but you also held a grudge and killed her. Are you still humane? Sister Zijin is not worthy of being your mother. What about you? Are you worthy of being Sister Zijin's children? The cats that Sister Zijin raises are more filial than you." Xiao Shui and Xiao Lei were both scolded until their faces turned red, especially Xiao Shui. She became even angrier when she saw a girl about her age having such a good relationship with her mother. So, he walked forward angrily and continued to scold, "What do you know? That's because you haven't seen how stupid Wang Zijin is. She does whatever her father tells her to do, and is willing to serve her lover. As long as they don't divorce, she won't divorce even if she's beaten to death. She's such a love-brained person. If she were your mother, you would know how shameful it is. She's so stupid, she deserves to be framed. When Wang Zijin heard this, he also felt that he was indeed very stupid. She was so stupid that she had lost herself. Even when her children hated her to the point of wanting to kill her, she hid the fact from them because she didn't want them to worry about her almost dying. Wang Zijin didn't listen to what was being said outside, because Su Yangbei in front of her was already leaning against the headboard and leaning close to her. Wife, are you listening to me? Look at me carefully. I say, I love you. Will you marry me? Su Yangbei blinked his charming peach blossom eyes, with a complex floral scent and a sweet taste, enveloping Wang Zijin, who had no choice but to accept it. Wang Zijin had no choice but to use his special powers to make him step back and stand still. Then she frowned, let out a sigh, rubbed her aching forehead, and explained to him coldly but seriously. Su Yangbei, I know you just want to use me to coax your ex-girlfriend, Goddess Anna, but I can't help you. As I said before, as an elder and colleague, I will do my best to help if I can, but it can only be done if I want to, not if I am forced to help. If you continue to talk nonsense and don't care about our friendship, then I don't want you as a colleague anymore and I won't help you in any way. After Wang Zijin finished saying this, he unlocked Su Yanbei's shut up ability and said, you can talk now, Xiaosu. Xiaosu? Su Yangbei smiled. In fact, he had been smiling inexplicably all the time. His charming eyes stared at Wang Zijin with deep affection and a mad determination to win. Young married woman. Wang Zijin suddenly frowned and was about to speak with a cold face, but Su Yangbei changed his words first. Okay, Zijin, sister? Is it okay for me to call you that? Where did you hear that I wanted to coax Goddess Anna? I was with Anna, but weren't you married too? We can be even, right? And, he didn't let Wang Zijin answer, and continued, I like you and want to marry you. I'm serious about it, but I'm not forcing you. I'm pursuing you, my goddess. He suddenly took a step forward, frightening Wang Zijin so much that her pupils shrank. She did not remove the restrictions on Su Yanbei's movements. Before their time was up, Su Yangbei actually rushed over, scaring her so much that she wanted to use her supernatural powers again. Su Yangbei half knelt down with a plop, and said in a very gentlemanly yet pitiful tone, Sister Zijin, please give me a chance. If you feel that what I have done for you is not enough, I will continue to work hard. As he spoke, he wiped the non-existent tears from his face, and also wiped the heavy gauze that was still on the left side of his face. That was the wound where Wang Zijin had blocked the knife. He reminded her clearly, but in a weak tone, Sister, good sister, give me a chance, sister. Su Yangbei acted like a spoiled child, but Wang Zijin just felt blocked and suffocated in his heart, and even felt like vomiting. She felt that she might be abnormal. Su Yangbei was obviously not bad looking and had good acting skills, but who wouldn't feel sorry for that little girl with red eyes? But she actually wanted to vomit and couldn't help it, so she dry heaved. Su Yanbei's face turned green and black in an instant, and he couldn't even maintain his usual fake smile. He gritted his teeth before forcing himself into a stiff smile again. Sister, do you dislike me? Is it because I don't look good, or because I don't speak well? Wang Zijin shook his head tiredly. You acted too well. I don't want to waste time talking to you. I don't know what you want, but... Wang Zijin looked at him and said seriously, thank you for taking care of my father these days. Please don't get close to him anymore, because you don't plan to be my colleague anymore. So please get out, Su Yangbei. She was about to use her supernatural power again, but Su Yangbei grabbed her wrist and pressed both hands on her head, making her unable to move. Wang Zijin was very frightened. This time she was sure that Su Yangbei was not under her control. Su Yanbei's supernatural power level was higher than hers. How did she control Su Yangbei before? Was Su Yangbei acting and deliberately deceiving her? Wang Zijin was so frightened that her whole body froze. This special ability didn't work, so she immediately used her ability to communicate with animals and plants, trying to call on the small animals for help. Su Yangbei seemed to see through her and smiled. Although my ice ability often fails, it is still very powerful when it is successfully used. Are you sure you want to call those little things to die? Wang Zijin, let go. If you tell me to let you go, I will. Are you my wife? Su Yangbei glanced at her with a fiery evil look, and asked, I'll ask you again, will you be my wife? Wang Zijin shook her head firmly and wanted to speak, but Su Yangbei pressed a finger on her lips, very hard. Wang Zijin was in so much pain that he could taste the blood on his lips and tongue. He wanted to use his other supernatural powers, but his head was in so much pain that it felt like it was exploding, that he couldn't muster any strength at all. Her sequelae are so serious, no wonder Chen Jin asked her to have a good rest, otherwise she would die. What to do? I'm very curious. Su Yangbei rubbed his fingers on her lips, and said frivolously and wantonly, as if playing with her, the reason you fell in love with your ex-husband is because he was gentle and considerate, and touched you, right? Could it be that your taste has changed? Do you like sloppy and vulgar straight men like Lu Yingchuan, or men like Chen Jin who dare not show his face, might be very ugly, and like to show off? It's just a matter of beating a few sea-level mutants, har har. He sneered and sneered contemptuously, and when he looked at Wang Zijin, he became arrogant and looked down on everyone. I'm wasting my time asking you so many questions. I don't know what you like, but I like being the tyrant. I want to force myself on you. He smiled evilly, suddenly leaned over, took a deep breath as if greedily, and whispered, "Baby, you smell so good." Wang Zijin watched him getting closer and closer, and his fingers unbuttoned her hospital gown one by one. She turned pale with fear and broke out in a cold sweat. But she couldn't move, she could only stare at him with her eyes wide open and unblinking. Su Yangbei was very satisfied with her like this and said, "If I had known that you would only respond to hard actions and not soft ones, I wouldn't have wasted so much time and would have eaten you a long time ago." He licked his two slightly pointed canine teeth, suddenly opened his mouth and pressed down on Wang Zijin's lips, and Wang Zijin also ground his teeth at the same time. "Come on, bite. Let us see who bites whom to death." She was ready to bite the other person to death, but before he could touch her, he suddenly retreated, as if bounced off by something, and was knocked back far away. With a bang, he was knocked against the wall and leaned over to spit out a mouthful of blood. Wang Zijin was shocked, and Su Yangbei was also shocked. They both looked at each other in horror. Finally, Wang Zijin followed his gaze and looked at her neck. Su Yanbei's tone was filled with anger, but after saying just one word, he turned back into his previous gentle, smiling, warm-hearted man mode like the spring breeze and drizzle. "Sister Zijin, I just played with you for a while, you feel much better, right? Don't be angry with me anymore, I won't call you my wife anymore, forgive me, okay?" Wang Zijin. Wang Zijin was completely confused. She didn't understand what had knocked Su Yangbei away, nor did she know why Su Yangbei started acting again. However, Su Yangbei seemed to be sincerely repentant this time. He got up, opened the door quickly and left without even looking at Wang Zijin. Only then did Wang Zijin relax his tense body, breathing slowly as if he had survived a disaster, and buttoned his clothes softly. "My fingertips are trembling." She was actually quite scared just now. Su Yangbei was like a devil who wanted to eat her. It was so scary. Just as scary as those mutants that wanted to eat her. "Wang Zijin, what happened just now?" Wang Zijin heard Chen Jin's voice and was confused for 2 seconds before answering honestly, "Su Yangbei. He is very strange. I feel like he wants to eat."